Chapter 586, Really Not Attractive? Chapter 586, Really Not Attractive? Eating at the Golden Pearl wasn't purely just ordering from a menu. It was almost like renting a car. You needed to choose the kind of plate you wanted first, and then add dishes on top of that. There were silver, gold, and diamond plates. Silver plates were for the $10K and below price range, gold plates for $10K to $80K, and there was only one type of diamond plate which costed $888. Depending on the plate you chose, the cheapest you could get was $222 and the most expensive was $888. Chong Yuanyuan ordered the $888 silver plating and then went into a room. Inside the room, you chose the dishes you wanted from a touch screen. Looking at it, their meal was going to cost more than $15K. And then you also had to take into account what sort of drinks you wanted. High-class wine would cost a lot. There's only 2 of us, let's not order that much. It will be a waste if we don't eat it all, Emo commented as he saw that she had ordered more than $15K worth of dishes. Chong Yuanyuan smiled. Brother Yi, I finally have a chance to treat you to food, so if I don't get something good now, who knows when I will be able to treat you to food again. Emo knew that she was grateful to him, and didn't reject. Hearing this, the 2 behind them realized that it was the girl treating to the meal this time. And Ning frowned. She could tell that Emo and Chong Yuanyuan didn't look like wealthy people, but even though they didn't have money, they still came to eat good food here. This made her very contemptuous. The main thing was that the man seemed to be using his good looks to get free food. Brother, I think that since you came to eat with a girl, it's best if the guy pays for the food. It's a bit embarrassing for the girl to pay for the food. The man could tell Ning wasn't happy and walked up to Emo Chong Yuanyuan and was immediately unhappy. She scanned the man and immediately replied, I want to pay for it using my own money. Mind your own business. And Ning didn't expect Chong Yuanyuan to be like that, and she intervened. Miss Jirang said that out of goodwill, why are you like that? And Ning felt like the 2 had no manners at all. Okay, I understand. Anyway, the cheapest dish is only a few thousand? What can we eat from a few thousand silver plate? It's too cheap, get me a $888 diamond plate. The man hadn't planned on getting the most expensive dish, but those 2 were being rude, so he didn't mind making them lose face a bit. Emo didn't care, but Chong Yuanyuan was very angry. Although there were a lot of people eating there, and $888 was quite expensive already, those 2 were implying that she was being too stingy. She genuinely wanted to treat Brother Yi to food, yet like this, what would Brother Yi think of her? It's not like I can't afford $888. Chong Yuanyuan was about to get the most expensive one but was stopped by Emo. Seeing that she wasn't happy, Emo smiled and said, Yuanyuan, what are we pigs? Can we eat that much? $888 is enough, we'll leave it at that. What are you implying? And Ning frowned and immediately felt uncomfortable. I just wanted to remind her out of goodwill, are you calling us pigs? Emo realized that the 2 had ordered the diamond plating, but to be honest, he really wasn't trying to insinuate that the 2 were pigs. I have a good temper and never harass people due to my status, but don't think I don't know how to. Jirang also felt insulted. Emo thought that this was just a small matter, no point in making it too big. His words had been easy to misunderstand just then. Considering that, he smiled and explained. I wasn't talking about you or anything, honestly, but whether you believe me or not is of course up to you. Anyway, Yuanyuan, let's go eat. I really want to know how the food is here. The man was just about to start raging when Ning walked over and smiled sweetly. It was my bad before, I was too sensitive. I'm Ning, this is my name card. Then, she took out a red name card which had a faint aroma to it. Everyone including Emo was dazed. This pretty woman changed faces too quickly. Everyone thought she was going to rage, yet instead she started trying to connect with Emo. That exquisite-looking name card was obviously not one she gave out easily. Even Jirang's face sunk. He didn't even have her card, yet this stranger guy was getting one. Emo shook his head. The woman might have been pretty, but she was too calculating. Although her face looked cold and indifferent, there was a feeling about the whole thing Emo didn't like. But at the same time, Emo didn't have a reason to reject the name card. He smiled, took it and said, "I don't have a job, so I don't have a name card." Then, he walked further into the restaurant. Although Chong Yuan didn't have any intentions for Emo, she didn't like that Ning nonetheless. She immediately said, "Brother Yi, that Ning is no simple person, you need to be careful." Emo nodded. He didn't even look at the name card before throwing it into the garbage can at the door. Of course, he couldn't tell her that. Seeing Emo and Chong Yuan leave, Ning sneered. She was sure that young man would call her later. She would talk him down yet. She was sure that young man was just playing hard to get. She had seen too many of that kind of people and felt like she needed to teach them a lesson. She was very confident in her looks. "And Ning, why did you give that person your name card? He doesn't have good intentions for you. You need to be careful. If it were me, I'd be getting some people to teach him a lesson," the man said. And Ning smiled. "It's a small matter, and you shouldn't be casually teaching people lessons anymore. Your grandfather specially gave all you young masters a briefing that you had to settle down. That's just in Beijing, and I'm not in Beijing right now. Also, I have calmed down a lot," Jirang said sulkily. "By the way, I heard your father say that your family is trying to move to Luoyu. How is that going?" Jirang remembered the main reason why he had asked Ning out today. And Ning shook her head. "It hasn't been done yet. The conditions for moving to Luoyu have gotten much harsher." "Then maybe you shouldn't go," Jirang persuaded. And Ning fell into silence before saying, "I've been to Luoyu once. It's a very beautiful place. Also, I saw no injustice at all there, yet every day on the internet you see a lot of injustice happening elsewhere. I don't feel comfortable about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's not like anyone can do you any injustice, so why do you care?" Jirang didn't get it. "Because I too live on this earth, and dash." And Ning shook her head and didn't continue. She knew that she couldn't talk about this topic with rich people like Jirang. He had never experienced injustice and wouldn't care. "Young Master Rang." A loud voice interrupted the two, and two young men walked over. The one walking in front was less than 30 and had a square face. He looked quite heroic. The youth behind him looked a little older but was also very handsome. "Han Dan, long time no see. This is?" Jirang greeted. Han Dan with the square face walked over and patted Jirang on the shoulder. "I really didn't expect to see you here. Let me introduce you. This is John Lilin. He just flew over from Ninghai. Lilin, this is my university classmate Dash." Han Dan suddenly stopped. He was dazed when he saw Ning. What a pretty woman! Luckily, he quickly recovered. "Hello, I'm Ning." And Ning greeted. "Hello, hello." Han Dan greeted back while almost drooling. John Lilin just casually said hi. Although Ning was very beautiful, all he had in his heart was Su Jingwen. This was the second time Ning had to be shocked that day. She thought the first time was Yemo putting on an act, but this John Lilin's attitude was truly cold. At least Yemo had glanced at her, but John Lilin didn't even look at her. Was she perhaps really not that attractive? Chapter 587 Saw It. Chapter 587 Saw It. Lilin is different from me. I'm just a rich second generation, but he's a true social elite. If it wasn't because of an emergency, he wouldn't have come to Tandu today. But now that he came, I need to fulfill my duty as the landlord. Haha, I didn't think I'd be able to see young Master Rang at the Golden Pearl today. Let's eat together, let it be my treat tonight, Han Dan quickly said. Jirang patted his head and immediately reached out his hand to John Lilin. Of course, I remember. You were the #1 student of 2004. Your dad, Zhang Jigua, is the secretary of Ninghai City. Compared to you, Han Dan and I really are just rich second generations, haha. John Lilin quickly reached out his hand and said, Those are just some minor achievements, nothing worth mentioning. It's my honor to meet young Master Rang. The few got close very quickly and walked into a room. As they talked, they got to the topic of Ning wanting to go to Luoyu. Han Dan knew that was his opportunity to shine. If it's Luoyu we're talking about, then I really might have a way. A cousin of mine is living at Luoyu right now, and she has quite a big place, Han Dan said pridefully. This immediately caught the attention of the people there, and even Zhang Lilin was interested. Luoyu was different from China. Even if you were the head of China himself, you still wouldn't be able to casually make requests to Luoyu. So no matter what status you had in China, there was no use in trying to go to Luoyu through relations. Han Dan felt pretty satisfied seeing that everyone was listening to him intently, and continued slowly. I'll tell you a secret, the head of Luoyu and my great-grandfather are truly close friends. Do you think my cousin could stay at Luoyu permanently otherwise? I'm not bluffing here. If I wanted to go to Luoyu, I would only need to tell my great-grandfather. Han Dan actually was bluffing. Although his grandfather Han Zixin could get him into Luoyu if he wanted, considering his grandfather's character, he wouldn't help out for sure. Then Han Dan, can you help me? I wish to move to Luoyu. Ning couldn't resist it and stood up to ask. Only Ning herself knew that if it weren't for her truly wanting to go to Luoyu so much, she would never ask a rich second generation such a request the first time she met him. But she really didn't have a choice. She didn't know anyone who could get her into Luoyu, and she wanted to go to Luoyu more and more every day. Han Dan hadn't expected Ning to actually ask him for help, but now that he had said so much, he couldn't just admit that he had been bluffing. He clenched his teeth and replied, Of course, I'll ask my grandfather as soon as I get home. I trust that he won't reject me. He didn't have any confidence that his grandfather would agree as he knew his grandfather all too well, but he couldn't lose face in front of Ning. Thank you, Han Dan. This is my name card. If you can, please call me on first notice. Ning heard Han Dan's promise and felt much happier about the whole dinner. She actually got to meet someone as powerful as Han Dan. She had taken out another name card of hers. Zhireng had seen Ning give out 2 name cards, yet none of them had been for him, and he didn't feel happy. But he really had no way to help Ning. If it was something in China she needed, he would be able to help her properly for sure, but in Luoyu, he really didn't have that power. But even good friends can't just appear in the middle of the evening and steal away your girl, so Zhireng said bitterly. Han Dan, your grandfather's character is rather stubborn. I think this promise you're making might be quite hard to fulfill. Han Dan knew that Zhireng was telling the truth, but he had already made his promise, so he could only say, I'll do my best to make my grandfather agree to my request. But even Zhang Lilin could hear the not really confident tone with which Han Dan was speaking. Ning could of course also discern it, and she felt like she had been too impetuous. She got up and said to Han Dan, Young Master Han, if it proves impossible, I understand. Now if I may excuse myself to the ladies' room, you guys go ahead and keep talking. Seeing Ning walk out, Zhireng smiled. Han Dan, this time you bluffed too much. I really doubt your words. Your great-grandfather agreeing? Han Dan knew Zhireng was right and felt disappointed. If it wasn't that he couldn't contact his cousin, he would rather ask her for help instead. Walking out of the room, Ning suddenly felt it was funny how naive she was. She had believed something so casually and given her name card. She had given out 2 name cards that day, yet most of the time she wouldn't give out even one in half a year. I've been too desperate, Ning murmured and suddenly stopped. In the trash can next to the door, she could see her name card. She picked it up. It was that guy's without a doubt. For the first time, Ning felt truly angry and clenched her teeth. She wanted to drag that guy out and also throw him into that bin. She rarely gave out her name card, yet today, it had been thrown into a bin. That was intolerable. She didn't think any further before just pushing open the door to Emo and Chong Yuanyuan's room. Meanwhile, Emo and Chong Yuanyuan's food had arrived. Emo wasn't overly passionate about food, but he had to admit that the food there was really good. But Emo still felt like it was too pricey. The two ate and talked as time passed by quickly. At some moment, Chong Yuanyuan's phone sounded, and Emo stopped immediately. He wanted to know if it was Tang Beiwei calling. Chong Yuanyuan spoke a few sentences and hung up. She looked strangely at Emo and said, "It was Jin Wen. She's looking for Beiwei too and just got off the plane. She didn't find Beiwei at school, and she heard you were here, so she's coming over." Su Jin Wen? Emo thought she was in Ninghai only a few hours ago. How is she here all of a sudden? Suddenly, the door was pushed open. Seeing a Ning with an unhappy face, Emo was bewildered. Why did that woman suddenly appear? Emo thought of the name card he had thrown away and scanned his spirit sense out. The card was gone indeed. Is there something wrong? Chong Yuanyuan got up and asked normally. She didn't believe that a Ning would be that interested in Brother Yi. Brother Yi had a certain indescribable temperament to him, but it wasn't to the degree where it would make women like a Ning actually chase him. You really aren't a gentleman, are you? I gave you my name card, and it's fine if you don't want to call me, but why would you throw it into the garbage can? Emo blushed. He felt awkward and sighed to himself. Why didn't I just throw the card into my ring? Who knew this girl liked checking out garbage cans? Maybe I dropped it accidentally, Emo said, but he immediately regretted it. Why was he even trying to find an excuse? Oh, apparently you're really environmentally friendly dropping things too. And Ning sneered. Emo suddenly thought, it was just a name card. So what? He had thrown away Mo Kang's name card too, with the only difference that he had memorized the content first. And Ning, what are you doing there? A voice sounded. Chapter 588, Eyes. Chapter 588, Eyes. The doors opened, and Han Dan and company saw Ning stand at the door of Emo's room. Jirang, you guys go eat first, I'll eat over here. This person said he would be treating me to a meal. And Ning pointed at Emo casually. Noticing that Jirang still wanted to say something, she waved her hand and said, That'll be all. Jirang didn't dare rebuke her, but he still said shamelessly, Then why don't you join our table? It'll all be on me. Perhaps because these people were used to doing whatever they wanted, Jirang waved at the waiter before Emo and Chong Yuanyuan could even agree. When did I agree to join tables with you? Chong Yuanyuan was unhappy that she couldn't even peacefully treat Emo to dinner. It's you? No wonder Jingwen said she was going to Tandu out of nowhere. It was because you're here, and you're eating with another girl. I wonder what Jingwen would say if she saw this. John Lilan also noticed Emo at that moment. Jingwen, this way! At the same time, Chong Yuanyuan saw Su Jingwen and called out. Emo noticed that Su Jingwen was very fatigued and realized that she must have come over due to him. And John Lilan in turn probably came due to her. Emo felt guilty but didn't know what to say to Su Jingwen. He had already married Ning Qingxue, and Su Jingwen knew that, yet she had still chased over. What could he say? Emo. Su Jingwen walked up to Emo and called out to him, while her sadness was evident. In Emo's heart, Su Jingwen had always remained the friend he could talk well with even when he was very desolate. Su Jingwen had never looked down on him, and would never talk to him with such a wrong tone. Yet as soon as she arrived, she expressed her wrong feeling. Emo sighed. He only had Ning Qingxue and Luoying in his heart. There were a lot of good women in the world, but he couldn't accept them all. Jingwen, have a seat. I rushed over here because I didn't get news of Beiwei. Emo hesitatingly explained. And Ning suddenly realized, no wonder this young man didn't seem to notice me. He had such a pretty girlfriend. Jingwen's appearance was no lesser than hers, and she was even better than her in some aspects. But what Ning didn't understand was that since Su Jingwen was so perfect, what reason could there be for her to feel so wronged following the young man? Jingwen. John Lilan saw Su Jingwen sit next to Emo, and his face went pale. His feelings towards Su Jingwen were genuine, but the moment he had seen Emo there, he knew why Su Jingwen had come over from Ninghai and gone on the same plane as him. He had lost to some random young guy. And Ning looked at Su Jingwen and then at Yemo and Zhang Lilan and suddenly understood what was going on. She really wanted to spit in Yemo's face. Someone as beautiful as Su Jingwen had dropped her dignity to come chase Yemo, yet Yemo was still being hesitant. As everyone talked, the waiters served all the food. You must be tired having come all the way here from Ninghai, right? This song tree du swan liver is a bit average, but it's still edible, Yemo said. Seeing Yemo stay and talk, Su Jingwen breathed a sigh of relief. At least he hadn't left as soon as he saw her. Seeing Yemo take away the most expensive dish, Jirang was quite unhappy, but Su Jingwen was a pretty lady, so he couldn't say too much. Only Ning was clearly not too happy. Since you wanted to join the table, then hurry up and eat. We won't be waiting for you, Yemo said. Although they didn't mind such a small amount of money, they were still paying for the meal, so Jirang and Han Dan reached out to the food they liked. And Ning finally sat down, and only Zhang Lilan seemed like he had lost his soul. Brother Yi, I heard Bei Wei say that she would be going to Luoyu in a few months, is that true? Chong Yuanyuan said casually, but this immediately caught the attention of everyone at the table. Yemo didn't care and nodded. Yes, if it wasn't for her still having some business to take care of in Ninghai, she would be going over now. If you want to go to Luoyu too, you can go with Bei Wei. Why not move your parents there as well? I could go too? But I heard that after the war, it has become much harder to get into Luoyu. Could I really go? Chong Yuanyuan exclaimed joyfully. Bei Wei rarely told her about Yemo, so she didn't know that Luoyu was Yemo's. Of course. Jingwen, you can come too if you want. Yemo smiled. Su Jingwen smiled sweetly. I was planning on going to Luoyu, but I was afraid you wouldn't want it, so I didn't ask. Why wouldn't I want it? The more people I know go to Luoyu, the better. Yemo smiled. Han Dan looked at Yemo and suddenly seemed to have thought of something. And Ning first thought Yemo was just bluffing to Chong Yuanyuan and had a sneer on her face, but when she heard Su Jingwen's words, she felt like it could be real. Can you really make immigrating to Luoyu possible? And Ning asked subconsciously. That's our business. Jingwen, Yuanyuan, you're both done eating, right? Let's go. The people here are paying for us, so we don't need to worry about the bill. Yemo got up. Wait. And Ning suddenly stopped Yemo's eyes focused, and he suddenly stared intensely at the necklace on her chest. When he first came in, he had seen it but hadn't thought much of it. However, now that Yemo scanned it with his spirit sense, he felt like it was very familiar. It was a fish's eye. It wasn't exactly a fish's eye, it was two fish's eyes forming a bead. Yemo was sure that it was a broken piece of that yin-yang fish 8 trigram. He had 2 pieces already, and now he saw a pair of eyes on the necklace on her chest. He would be taking it no matter what. Yemo had the premonition that the yin-yang fish was no simple thing. If it was some cultivation material and he missed it, he would regret for life. Where are you looking? And Ning took a step back. She didn't expect the young man in front of her would start staring at her chest the moment she stood in front of him. Yemo? Su Jingwen also realized that Yemo's gaze wasn't okay and subconsciously held his arm. She thought Yemo had had too much to drink, and her holding Yemo's arm was as if she was saying I'm no lesser than this in Ning. She also meant to protect Yemo and show that the man she liked wasn't like that. Only Ning was able to interpret her actions. Chapter 589 Trickery. Chapter 589 Trickery. The faint aroma and softness which touched Yemo's arm made Yemo realize that he had been too impolite just then. He patted Su Jingwen's hand gratefully, signaling that he got it. And Ning also realized that Yemo wasn't trying to do anything to her. Su Jingwen was right next to him, and there were so many people there, he couldn't do anything to her anyway. Seeing all this happen, Jirang got up immediately, but before he could say anything, he was pulled down by Han Dan. Zhang Lilan's eyes lost their shine as he felt dejected. Yemo patted Su Jingwen, telling her to wait a bit, and then said to Ning, Ning, there are some things I want to talk to you about alone. Don't worry, I bear no ill will. and Ning just realized that Yemo had lost his bearing due to some other thing. He probably wasn't interested in her. She had wanted to ask Yemo about going to Luo Yu anyway. If he really had such power, she wouldn't mind using him to achieve her goal. Okay. And Ning immediately agreed. She went back to their original room. Han Dan, why did you pull me down? That punk dared be rude to a Ning. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Jirang's mouth was quickly covered by Han Dan. He looked worriedly at Su Jingwen and Yuan Chongchong before pulling him to the side. Young Master Rang, do you not want to live anymore? Do you know who that person is? Han Dan questioned coldly in a hushed tone. Who is he then? Can he kill me? Jirang sneered. Han Dan laughed. Qiu Jirang, don't blame me for not being a good friend, but if you want to die, don't drag me into it. Not only can he kill you, I can easily say that even if he killed you right now, your Qiu family wouldn't dare to do anything about it. Jirang shivered. Who in China would be able to kill him and make the Qiu family not dare to react? All I will tell you is that that person is very likely Yemo, the very person who made your grandfather personally go apologize. If you dare look for trouble with him, I admire your balls, Han Dan said contemptuously. When Qiu Zhirong heard the words Yemo, cold sweat immediately started running down his back. He finally understood what Han Dan meant. If that person truly was Yemo, then he could be slaughtered like a chicken. Brother Han, thank you this time. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even have known how I died. Qiu Zhirong wiped the sweat from his forehead. The number one person who the young masters in Beijing must not offend was Yemo. He didn't think that Yemo would be going around all over and even come to Tandu. He was really unlucky. Luckily, he remembered his dad's words and didn't act too cockily a bit earlier outside the restaurant. Otherwise, he would have already offended the young Master Yi at the counter. No need to thank me, you saved yourself. If you were still like before, you would probably be laying outside now. Han Dan felt very satisfied about Zhirong owing him now. Han Dan, should we leave right away? Qiu Zhirong just wanted to leave the place as fast as possible. Han Dan patted him and said, I heard Brother Zhang Ju say that young Master Yi actually doesn't like to start trouble. As long as you don't mess with him, he won't look for trouble with you either. So if you leave now, young Master Yi might think you still look down on him. Just stay low-key like me for now. Then, Han Dan said quietly, the other day, your Qiu family's Qiu Zhizhi cockily tried to attack young Master Ye's friend, and in the end. You understand. Seeing Qiu Zhirong keep nodding his head, Han Dan continued. That Ning really is pretty, and young Master Yi pulled her to the room next door. What do you think they will be doing that can't be heard by others? Young Master Yi must want her, so you must not look attracted to her in front of him. And also that Jing Gwen, don't take so much as one extra glance at her. Han Dan was using Yemo's power at that moment. Yemo's wife was very pretty, so he probably wouldn't be interested in a Ning. Han Dan was the one who was really interested in a Ning, so he wanted to use Yemo to stop Qiu Zhirong's desires for her. Yemo closed the door, looked at a Ning and said, I want the necklace on your chest, name your price. Yemo knew he sounded arrogant, but he simply had to get that necklace no matter what. You! A Ning blushed and wanted to rage. What was up with this guy? Although her pearl necklace was expensive, it wasn't unbuyable. What did this guy really want? It didn't seem like he was trying to get her. Do you know how rude it is to ask for a necklace a girl wears on her chest? And do you know how much this necklace costs? And Ning's tone wasn't as good as before. In her eyes, Yemo couldn't be that rich when he rode in a girl's Toyota. Yemo smiled. I don't know how much money you want, but if I pay 10 million, that should be the most that necklace is worth. And Ning was dazed. She hadn't imagined Yemo would be that rich. But she didn't want to sell it for 10 million. Her necklace was worth 3 million, and together with the small fish piece, it was worth around 8 million. I'm talking US dollars here, Yemo added. You're that rich? And Ning was really shocked. 10 million US dollars, even Zhirong wouldn't be able to take out that much. No one she knew could casually take out 10 million, not even if it was 10 million renminbi. Who was this person, and how was he this rich? If you want, I can even let you keep the pearl necklace. I just want the eyes of the yin-yang fish, Emo added. And Ning just reacted and looked at Emo in shock. How do you know that that's a yin-yang fish eye under the necklace? Emo was dazed. Right, how did he know? He couldn't really say, I scanned it with my spirit sense, right? Instead, he quickly said, I saw it accidentally when you bent over once. What? When did she bend over? Was it really an accident? And if this guy had seen the fish eye, wouldn't he have seen other things too? Seeing Ning be silent, Emo could only say, It's not good for girls to wear fish eyes, so if you agree, I can give you a smaller diamond instead. It's much prettier than that. What? And Ning was dazed again. But before she could come to terms with it, Emo took out a diamond a little larger than a soybean and threw it in her hand. And Ning looked dazedly at the huge diamond in her hand. She had never seen a diamond that big. From the bottom of her heart, she felt like the diamond was much better than the fish eyes, but her grandpa had given her the fish eyes. She didn't really want to give it away. Seeing that Ning was still hesitating, Emo spoke again. The fish eyes are yin-yang fish eyes. Don't you feel scared wearing that stuff at night? I heard these ancient things have a strange magic to them, and I might not be scared, but aren't you? Although she knew Emo was just scaring her, she did really start being a bit afraid. Just as Emo was about to keep speaking, and Ning took the diamond and said, It seems like you're not that simple at all, being able to take out 10 million US dollars and such a big diamond. Chapter 590, Tang Beiwei's Encounter. Chapter 590, Tang Beiwei's Encounter. Emo made up his mind that if Ning still disagreed, he would agree to give her 20 million as well as a luminous pearl. However, Ning said, I know you want this yin-yang fish eye really badly, but there's no need to trick me. I agree to trade with you, but I don't need your dollars. I think this diamond is enough. Since you want this fish eye so much, though, I'm sure it's no ordinary thing. Hence, I have a few extra conditions. Emo blushed. He didn't expect the woman to be so astute. Weren't diamonds supposed to be the killers of women? How was Ning still this calm? What Emo didn't know was that his words had actually succeeded. If this fish eye wasn't as scary at night as Emo made it out to be, Ning probably wouldn't be willing to trade. Tell me, Emo said casually. And Ning said coldly, First of all, I understand that you have quite the capabilities, so you must allow me to migrate to Luoyu. Secondly, tell me how you knew it was a yin-yang fish eye when you glanced at it from that far away. Thirdly, you must tell me why you want this necklace. Emo had a headache because of the last two questions. He would rather have paid more money. Seeing Ning look at him like he absolutely had to answer, he could only say, The first condition is fine, I can let you move to Luoyu any time you want. Secondly, I actually looked quite carefully when you bent over, for which I apologize. Thirdly, your yin-yang fish eye is a piece of a broken whole, and I want to gather all the pieces together. And Ning blushed and wanted to rage. How could this guy be so shameless? But Emo was already taking out his 2 pieces and put them on the table. I have 2 pieces here, can you check if your yin-yang fish eye is a part of it? And Ning noticed that her piece truly fit the other 2 pieces. She took out her necklace subconsciously and put it on the table, and it fit perfectly. It really came from the same place. And Ning let go of the necklace subconsciously. Before she said anything else, Emo picked up the necklace and said, Give me your diamond, I can fit it in here for you. You know how to do that. And Ning looked at Emo in confusion. Even if Emo knew how to put a diamond into a necklace, there were no tools present. Despite that, she still gave the diamond to Emo. Emo switched things around quickly, and he took the yin-yang fish eye. It's done. I used to do this on the streets, so I'm very fast. Here. Emo gave the necklace back to Ning. Huh. And Ning caught it subconsciously and didn't know what to say. This was too fast. It practically looked as though the diamond had grown on the necklace. And Ning was sure that even a jewelry master wouldn't have been able to attach it that quickly. Let's go. As for going to Luo Yu, just call this number and tell her that Emo said to take care of it. Emo gave Yu Miaodan's number to Ning. Looks like Beiwei is back. As soon as he gave the number to Ning, Emo's spirit sense scanned Tang Beiwei as she opened the door with a face full of fatigue. Brother! Tang Beiwei ran into Emo's arms and started crying. Emo was shocked and quickly checked her. He found that she was just a bit tired and emotionally distressed. He quickly patted her shoulder and said, Don't worry, just slowly tell me what happened. Su Jingwen and company also came out. Ning saw Tang Beiwei in Emo's arms and was shocked yet again. She rarely saw women as pretty as herself, yet now 2 women like that stood right in front of her. The girl that was in Emo's arms at the moment also had a certain ethereal temperament to her. It made Ning feel very strange. But immediately after, she looked down on Emo. The people related to him were all very beautiful women, and they all acted so intimate. Little did she know that in Emo's heart she was actually a calculative woman, a far cry from Tang Beiwei and Su Jingwen. Tang Beiwei looked up and realized that there were a lot of people, so she quickly said hello to Yuan and Jingwen. Emo didn't keep waiting for Tang Beiwei to start explaining, because she probably had things to say that were not suitable to be said then and there. Young Master Yi, my name is Qiu Zhirong. About today, I'm Dash. Qiu Zhirong walked up to Emo and bowed respectfully. Yi Qianbei, I'm Han Yan's cousin, Han Dan. Han Dan also came to bow. No wonder Emo had recognized him. Emo nodded and looked at Qiu Zhirong and said, So you're from the Beijing Qiu family? No wonder you're so rich. Qiu Zhirong didn't dare say anything and just looked on as the 4 walk out of the Golden Pearl. And Ning watched them strangely. She really didn't understand why these young masters were so respectful. Who would be able to make the Qiu family act so fearful? Meanwhile, Zhang Lilan looked lost when Su Jingwen left. Half an hour later, Emo, Su Jingwen, and Tang Beiwei booked a room at a hotel. Yuan had to go back early. Now tell me, what happened? Emo looked at Tang Beiwei and asked. Su Jingwen was also comforting her on the side. As I was with my classmates at Shilong restaurant yesterday, when the gathering was about to end, I saw Wei Yongqian. I immediately got furious, thinking, I have to kill this animal. I quickly told Yuan I'd be leaving and followed him out. Wei Yongqian? The one who tricked you into sleeping with me at Tandu? Emo immediately remembered the guy that had escaped. Have you already killed him? Emo asked. Tang Beiwei shook her head. No, although I brought a lot of fireball charms with me, he seemed to have realized that someone was following him. I was planning on giving him a fireball at some far-off location. He was very cunning and called a taxi at a busy place. Nonetheless, I still kept following him, but the car drove very fast, and I couldn't attack. It went all the way to Mount Xian, where he got off and went into the forest, and I followed him. Then, he went into a temple. This temple was very old, so I thought Wei Yongqian wouldn't be able to escape, but when I came to the door of the temple, I saw an old down nun appear there. Tang Beiwei's tone turned shaky. She was obviously still scared. Emo sat down and grabbed her hand. Tang Beiwei calmed down a little before saying, I told the nun to move aside and said that Wei Yongqian had enmity with me. But that nun sneered and told me to leave or she would kill me. But I hate Wei Yongqian to the bones, so I wasn't going to let him go. I shot a fireball charm at him, but that nun easily grabbed the charm, and it turned into dust. Chapter 591, Battered Temple. Chapter 591, Battered Temple. Emo's heart sunk. There was a nun that strong? The fireball charm he left Beiwei had been made when he was at stage 3 of Qi gathering. Although it wasn't very strong, it could still easily kill a yellow-level primary stage. And even though it could be easily avoided, it was too absurd that nun had been able to catch it with her hand and turn it to dust. You saw it with your own eyes? Emo's face turned serious. Tang Beiwei nodded. Yes, I really did. Then after a long time when she finally spoke, she said that my charm was good and that she didn't want to kill. She told me to leave all the charms behind and leave. I didn't leave the charms behind and just ran. I knew I was no match for her, but if she chased me, I would just throw all my fireball charms at her. She didn't chase you? Yemo asked strangely. That nun didn't sound that good-hearted. Tang Beiwei shook her head and said, I was also confused after seeing that she wasn't hunting me down. I ended up getting lost because I was so worried, and I only found my way out the next day. I have let an enemy run away from me again. I'm really useless. Tang Beiwei started to cry in Yemo's arms again. Yemo patted her shoulders. Beiwei, don't worry. Now that you found him, I won't let him go. I will help you get revenge. It is weird though. Since that nun was so strong, there was no reason for her to let you go. Anyway, think carefully. Yemo comforted her. Yeah, Beiwei, Mount Xian is only that big. How did you get lost? Su Jingwen commented. Tang Beiwei just thought about it at that moment, and realized that indeed, Mount Xian wasn't that big. How could she get lost there for a whole day? Yemo nodded. I checked your qi and dantian, and it is true that you didn't receive many injuries. Right, I remembered something. During the day, I felt like I hadn't gotten very far, so that none could have captured me easily. Tang Beiwei replied. Yemo said. Although it's a little hard to believe, the following might be the truth. That nun must have set up a formation outside the temple and trapped you inside of it. As for why she didn't attack, I don't know either. Beiwei, you weren't attacked in the formation? Tang Beiwei replied after a while. I didn't get attacked, but I did feel dizzy and sleepy after walking for a bit. I then immediately started running qi cycles and stopped feeling tired. But after a while, I felt tired again and had to do the same. Yemo finally understood. It had been a close call, though. If he hadn't taught Beiwei some cultivation method, she would have been done for last night. What he didn't understand was that with that nun being so strong, why did she not capture Beiwei personally? Tang Beiwei had also understood and asked, full of fear of what could have happened. Brother, you're saying that that person wanted to wait for me to fall asleep in the formation? Yemo nodded seriously. That's probably it, but you did very well. Luckily, you didn't fall asleep. I think the formation probably needed someone to control it, and because that person saw that she couldn't do anything to you for the whole night, or because of some other reason, she decided to let you go. Beiwei, let me look at your necklace. Yemo pulled the necklace from Tang Beiwei's neck. It still had some warmth, but Yemo could tell that it had been attacked for more than once. However, in her worry, Tang Beiwei hadn't even noticed that she had been attacked. Other than that hypnotizing formation, you have been attacked many times, but it was all blocked by your necklace. If I'm not wrong, it's not that she didn't want to properly attack you, but that she couldn't for some reason. Perhaps because she was heavily injured and wouldn't be able to handle all your fireball charms, she hesitated when attacking. The attacks you received weren't very strong, Yemo said as he put the necklace down. Oh really? If only I had known, I would have shot out a bunch of fireballs at once. Tang Beiwei expressed her regret as she felt the necklace. She felt gratitude towards her brother. If her brother hadn't given her the necklace, she didn't know what would have happened. Yemo shook his head. It was right of you not to use the fireballs continuously. That old nun was probably injured and unsure whether she was a match for you. If it turned out she could deal with the fireballs, however, then once you used them up, you would be in danger. Sometimes you don't have to use your weapon to threaten others, but it's a bigger threat to keep it instead. Brother, I remember now. When I shot out the first fireball, although that nun caught it with her hand, her face was very pale. And I understand now. She really was heavily injured. Tang Beiwei remembered something. What is it? Yemo immediately asked. Tang Beiwei reminisced. Her face was scarily pale under the moonlight. I didn't dare look too long, so I retreated subconsciously. Then I seemed to see her shadow moving on the ground. I was very scared and thought it was the wind. But now that I think of it, how can the wind make a shadow move? She must be heavily injured yet still have forcibly caught my fireball charm and then used her inner chi to suppress her wounds. Yes, that must be it. Yemo and Su Jinwen also believed that Tang Beiwei's guess would be right. The three talked a bit more before Tang Beiwei and Su Jinwen went to rest. Tang Beiwei was very tired and fell asleep as soon as she got in bed. But Su Jinwen tossed around and around, unable to fall asleep. Su Jinwen suddenly thought that it seemed like Yemo would be going away for a while soon, so she suddenly wanted to talk to Yemo privately. She thought about how she had had the courage to hold Yemo's arm today, and her heart beat fast. In the past she wouldn't have had that courage for sure. But as she saw Yemo less and less, Su Jinwen felt at a loss. Looking at Tang Beiwei, who was already asleep, Su Jinwen got up like a thief and carefully walked to Yemo's door. Yemo's door was a little open, so Su Jinwen pushed open the door and carefully called out, "Yemo?" Su Jinwen suddenly got tense. What if Yemo hugged her or something? It was the middle of the night, and she was in her pajamas. She just wanted to talk to Yemo as there were many things she had been wanting to ask Yemo about, but ever since Yemo left Ninghai, she hadn't had the chance to talk to him privately. Su Jinwen felt like something was wrong. She knew of Yemo's sensitivity, he wouldn't possibly not be able to hear her call. Su Jinwen turned on the lights and found the room to be empty. She subconsciously went to the bathroom, and there was no one there either. Yemo had gone out. Su Jinwen felt disappointed yet also relieved at the same time. It was so late though, where could he have gone? Su Jinwen sat on Yemo's bed in deep thought and fell asleep. Of course Yemo had gone to Mount Xian. If he didn't get back at that nun for harming his sister, he wouldn't be able to sleep. It was just as Tang Beiwei said, there was a tattered temple on the mountain. Yemo walked in, but there was no one there. He could only hear the occasional howl of some animal, and nothing else. Yemo scanned his spirit sense around the temple, and there was some dark blood marks, so it seemed like whoever lived there was heavily injured indeed. Just as Yemo wanted to go outside to check if there were any signs of a formation set there, a white, ghostly figure slowly floated towards the temple. Chapter 592, Careless Man and Woman. Chapter 592, Careless Man and Woman. A ghost? Yemo was standing at the door as he watched the white figure approach the temple. From a distance it looked like it was floating, and it shone brightly under the moonlight. He was dazed. There weren't many manifested souls, and those who manifested had some basic offensive capabilities. Ghosts were usually invisible, but Yemo could scan them with his spirit sense. These beings usually lived in special environments, such as the heavenly ditch or tombs. This wasn't a ghost. Yemo's spirit sense had scanned clearly that it was a man under a white sheet. It was just that the way he was walking was strange. Moreover, he had covered his head too. Yemo didn't know why he was doing this in the middle of the night at an abandoned temple. Was that necessary? He seemed younger than 30, and he had lost a finger on his left hand. Not here, the man said to himself after seeing there was no one at the door. But after this, he pulled out a dagger from his waist and scanned the temple. Then, he kicked a broken mat and cursed. F***ck, I came here for nothing. Afterwards, he took out a phone and called someone. Not long after, another person came there. This person was like the man before, carried a knife and a white sheet, but this time it was a woman, a robust woman. What happened? She asked. Ran away. What a loss! The man cursed. I told you to come earlier, but you wanted to come at this time. That man looked rich, he must have been forced to stay here because of an enemy. Look at the things he bought in Mount Xian, it's stacks of red notes. The woman complained. Yemo immediately realized that they were probably talking about Wei Yongqian. He probably left during the day and bought some items in the city at Mount Xian. Hence, the couple had seen that Wei Yongqian was wealthy and wanted to rob him. They followed him to the mountain, but since they couldn't really make a move during the day, they came at night. However, Wei Yongqian was gone. They probably used the white sheets to scare him too. The woman had stayed down there to catch Wei Yongqian in case he tried to escape. F***ck, we lost a great deal. If we had managed to get him, we could have lived freely for a long time. F***ck, Demi, let's have some fun. The man put the sword away and laughed at the woman. Yemo felt disgusted. This guy was really careless. He felt like doing that in such a place. The robust woman sneered. P***ss off. We didn't get the money today, I'm not letting you. Hee Demi, why are you being like this? You know every time I give you the best. When we get more money in the future, I will still give you the best. Then, the man grabbed the woman towards him. The woman didn't reject him this time. The two of him quickly took off their clothes. They went on to the only table in the temple and started panting heavily. The man looked ferocious but finished very quickly. The woman said unsatisfied. If next time you will only do this, don't bother touching me. Then, she kicked the table unhappily. Yemo, who was going to leave, suddenly stopped. He had heard the kick on the table, but it sounded hollow underneath. Yemo reached his spirit sense down, and found that he indeed had missed something before. There was earth under the table, but under the earth there was a lid. Yemo reached his spirit sense down even more, and he found a hole under the lid. This meant that there was an underground room. The two finished up and started getting dressed themselves. Then, that man suddenly shivered and said, Demi, why do I feel like there's someone blowing cold air on my neck? It's so cold. The woman was putting on her pants and sneered. You're too useless, leaving me hanging like this. Don't touch me again if you're scared of the cold. Yemo heard the man's words and scanned his spirit sense over. He was dazed. He really did find a ghost this time. There was a faint ghost standing behind the man. It was clenching its teeth, but it was too weak, so it could only blow some cold air. Yemo saw the ghost and knew that ghost's death was related to the man. If one did too many bad things, they would encounter ghosts indeed. Yemo wouldn't intervene. He wanted to see what the ghost would do. It's real. I felt cold air blowing onto my neck again. The man's tone was shaky. The woman was about to reply, but then she saw the white cloth slowly raise in the air, as if picked up by an invisible person. There was no wind. Ah, cielo cloth. The woman couldn't stay calm anymore. She pointed at the cloth and wanted to run, but her legs weren't moving. Cloth? What ar dash? The man turned around and saw the white cloth coming at them. Yeah. The couple dropped on the floor unconscious because of fear. Yemo shook his head. If they had been bold enough, they could have just ignored the cloth. If the two of them ignored it, the ghost wouldn't have been able to do anything to them. However, the ghost was a victim and Yemo didn't intend to burn it. He walked out and kicked the couple out of the temple. Yemo ignored the ghost and approached the table in order to open the tunnel. But the ghost floated over to his side, so Yemo turned around and said coldly to the ghost, I can see that you're pitiful, so I will let you go, but if you get in my way then I will certainly do something about it. Yemo felt the ghost shiver after he said that, but he still didn't leave. Instead, it emanated a feeling of gratitude. Do you know me? Yemo didn't know why he would get that feeling from the ghost and asked. The ghost nodded but couldn't speak. Yemo thought about this and decided to send his will with his spirit sense. Yemo rejoiced when he realized that the ghost could convey his thoughts back to Yemo through his spirit sense. Qianbei, you are a powerful person indeed. I didn't think I, Ijioha, could meet you twice, although I'm a ghost now. Yemo was dazed after understanding the message. Yemo remembered the name. He was a middle-aged man and a very generous person. He had met him at the Luo Tsung magic artifact meeting. When he couldn't see a single magic artifact, he had brought his 2 daughters and paved the way. How can it be you? Yemo was dazed. Ijioha gave him a very good impression. He couldn't have imagined that he would be harmed by that couple. He must have exposed his wealth coming to Mount Xian. Chapter 593, Re-encounter with the Sutra. Chapter 593, Re-encounter with the Sutra. Ijioha soon conveyed how he had come to Mount Xian for business, and started being targeted by the 2 criminals. Although he told them he could give them even more money, The two just took his cash and killed him. Okay, you're a nice guy, and you helped me out last time, so I'll help you too this time. Guillermo threw out 2 fireballs, and the 2 people outside were immediately turned to ashes. Ijioha looked at Guillermo's power in a daze, while his ghostly form started to dissipate. If he hadn't known the Qianbei in front of him, and this Qianbei threw a fireball like that at him, his soul would have been turned to nothing in an instant. Guillermo sighed. He wondered what could have happened to that protection artifact Ijioha had had. If he had worn it, he might not have died. Qianbei, thank you for helping me get revenge. I feel that I'm about to disappear from this world. Please help me, I'm worried about my wife and 2 daughters. Now that something has happened to me, my 2 brothers will try to steal my fortune. I've left a will, it's in my best friend Jiang Junshin's hands. You want me to bring this will to your family? Guillermo frowned. He didn't really want to do that, because he was very busy. But Ijioha was a good person, so Guillermo would go if he had the time. He did think Ijioha was worrying too much, though. His wife and daughters were still there. How could his fortune be taken by his brothers? Thank you, Qianbei, now I feel assured. If you see my wife, tell her to give you the Rainbow Rock. Jiotang City's Jioha Corporation is mine. Before Ijioha could say everything he wanted, he dissipated. Guillermo sighed. He did have the Yin Sha bead, but he didn't have any ghost cultivation method, so he couldn't help Ijioha. The only reason why Ijioha had been able to last so long was purely because of his will. The moment he relaxed, his ghostly form couldn't stay in this world. Bar any special circumstances or other people keeping the ghost in existence, it was very hard for ghosts to stay in this world. Moreover, the ghosts kept by humans usually weren't capable of conscious thought, and only ghost cultivators would have their own will. Guillermo collected his thoughts and opened the passage under the table. As soon as he opened it, he immediately knew that there must have been people living there. There was a flow of wind in the place. As he walked a few meters in, Guillermo saw a room and scanned it. There were a crooked wooden bed and a new-looking rug in it, and other than that, there were also a normal table and chair. Guillermo carefully scanned around with his spirit sense, and quickly found that the wall was different in one spot. He walked over and noticed that it was possible to open that spot. After opening it, Guillermo found a big wooden box, and as he opened the box, Guillermo found 4 thick books covered in silk inside. 3 were actually of the Tao De Sutra and 1 was even older and didn't have a cover. Guillermo was dazed, because he knew the books quite well by then. Those were really 3 Enai-Luo Sutra books. Guillermo opened a book and was able to barely recognize the words Enai-Luo on a yellow page. What disappointed Guillermo was that the 3rd book's golden title page was missing. Guillermo owned 2 golden pages already, so the 3rd must have been taken by the person who hid those books in that place. The person who hid it there must have also found out about the secret of the golden page. Guillermo sighed. He had obtained the 3rd book, yet the most important part was gone. How did that other person realize that the blank title page was special? Guillermo thought for a moment, and suddenly came to realize that that person most likely must have had all 3 books. But since 2 of them didn't have such a blank page, the person only had to think a bit to know that the blank page was very important. But even then, there was no point in leaving the 3 Enai-Luo Sutra books in that spot. Suddenly, Guillermo remembered what Luoyin had said. It was a martial ant from their sect who probably took the Enai-Luo Sutra, and she was halfway the Great Heaven State. Factoring in Tang Beiwei's encounter, it would seem that the old nun Beiwei had met was most likely that martial ant. The 4th book Guillermo found looked very thick and had some images on it, all of bare women. Each image had red lines showing the direction and method of qi cultivation. It was probably an ancient martial arts cultivation method. Guillermo gave it a look and saw that it was much more powerful than other methods. The 4 books had no meaning to Guillermo, so he casually dumped them in his ring. Guillermo then looked around, but there was nothing else. Guillermo could only leave and reseal the entrance to leave it the way he had found it. It seemed like that nun was injured and had left those books behind. But the books didn't take up that much space, so did she find it dangerous to keep the books on her for some reason? Was there someone hunting her? Also, why would a half-stepped great heaven master from the inner hidden sects be together with someone like Wei Yongjian? Yemo didn't understand that, as they were people from two different worlds. In the meantime, it had become almost daylight, so Yemo quickly left the broken temple. Yemo came back to the hotel only to find Su Jingwen laying on his bed. Why was she sleeping there? Ah, you're back. Su Jingwen heard the sound of the door closing and woke up, and when she saw Yemo look at her strangely, her face blushed as she thought about what happened the night before. She quickly started to explain. I came to talk to you last night, but you were gone, so I ended up falling asleep here. Yemo understood and smiled. Go ahead and keep sleeping then, I'm not tired. Su Jingwen quickly said. It's already day, I'll be leaving. When Tang Beiwei got up in the morning and didn't see Su Jingwen, she called for her but didn't hear a reply. When she walked out of her room and didn't find her in the living room either, she thought, where did she go this early in the morning? And why didn't she wear her coat? At that moment, Yemo's door opened, and Su Jingwen walked out of his room in her pajamas. She saw Tang Beiwei and smiled. Morning Beiwei Yim. She just realized that she was walking out of Yemo's room in the morning, and Beiwei was seeing her like this. What would she think? Sister Jingwen, you slept with my brother last night? Tang Beiwei asked subconsciously. Wah Beiwei, it's not what you think. Your brother wasn't there last night, I slept. Su Jingwen stuttered. Yemo walked out at that moment, and stood behind Su Jingwen. Su Jingwen didn't keep explaining but quickly ran back into her room to change clothes. Beiwei, after we have breakfast, I will send you and Jingwen back to Ninghai. Yemo didn't feel safe about having them there with that old nun nearby. Brother, I'm really surprised. Tell me, last night, did you and Sister Jingwen? Tang Beiwei uttered quietly. Yemo smiled helplessly. Beiwei, don't say that, nothing happened between us. Humph. Brother, you slept Sister Jingwen, so you need to take responsibility for her. You live in Luoyu anyways, so it's fine if you have more than one wife. Sister Jingwen is so pretty, it's not like you're losing out. Tang Beiwei suddenly raised her voice. Su Jingwen heard her by the door and felt embarrassed. She wanted to hear what Yemo would say, so she didn't open the door. Yemo sweated. He never knew his sister had such a side to her. Yemo didn't want things to get more complicated, so he cut it off. For now, Beiwei, don't speak about it again. I'll explain to you later. Chapter 594 Will Case. Chapter 594 Will Case. Jiutang City was the biggest city in Hedong Province. Yemo went there right after sending Su Jingwen and Tang Beiwei away since he had promised to help Ijioha. Although he was very busy, he truly approved of Ijioha's character. There were a lot of wealthy people, but not many of them were generous. When Ijioha bought his necklace, he hadn't known the true value of it. He bought it in the first place due to his love for his daughter, but also to help out Yemo. As for going to Beijing, Yemo called Han Zixin and found out that it was something concerning the search for the space flower blueprint. He immediately lost interest. Before Han Zixin could persuade him, he said he had no time and put the phone back in his ring. Yemo didn't know where Ijioha's home was, so he could only ask people on the road about where Ijioha Corporation was. It turned out to be really easy to find out, as they were the biggest corporation in that region. However, the person he asked smiled and said, It's the third time they're holding a court hearing about the Will case. You won't find anyone responsible at the Ijioha Corporation at the moment. What Will case? Yemo asked strangely. That person replied, Brother, you must be a foreigner. Everyone in this city knows about the Ijioha Corporation Will case. The owner of the corporation, Ijioha, disappeared, and soon after, they found his remains. His fortune is cause for a lot of conflict after his death. The third court hearing is taking place today. Yemo asked surprised. He only had his wife and daughters, how could they fight over that? Yes, but he also had 2 brothers and his father is still alive. The main problem was that he left a will, But it's a bit weird how the fortune is to be divided according to it. That's all I've heard. The person left. Yemo analyzed the situation. It seemed that Ijioha had expected this, but didn't get to deal with it before he died. Furthermore, his death was very strange too. How could someone like him be killed by two robbers? Yemo stopped at the steps of the courthouse and suddenly thought of something. The two robbers from the previous night must not have been easy to handle if they could kill Ijioha. But then how could they have let Wei Yongqian escape? Since they thought Wei Yongqian was wealthy, they wouldn't have let him leave their sight. With their experience, how could they make such a low-level mistake? Moreover, the temple was quite old. How could they be sure that Wei Yongqian would spend the night there? This meant that they had a person keep watch at the bottom of the mountain, and since they didn't see Wei Yongqian leave the mountain until night, they decided to go up. But then, how did Wei Yongqian and that nun get away? There was definitely something wrong there. The couple was horny and just wanted to have sex, so they didn't think about how Wei Yongqian could possibly have left. But Yemo had been to that place, and he knew that if Wei Yongqian and the nun wanted to leave, they would have had to go through the small path. Another weird thing was that he hadn't found any signs of the formation there last night. No, he had to go back and see. After all, it involved the golden page. Thinking about this, Yemo no longer was in the mood to go to the court. He could ask someone to help with Ijioha's case, but he had to go and look for the nun and the golden page himself. Just when Yemo was about to leave, the door opened and people got out. Yemo immediately saw Ijioha's two daughters. They were helping a stressed-looking middle-aged woman walk. Next to them, there were two middle-aged men. One looked like Ijioha's wife and the other one wore glasses. Since he had seen them, he thought he might as well go greet them. "You're that person who sold us the magic artifact." The older daughter saw Yemo and said in surprise and joy. Yemo smiled and said, "Hello, yes I am. I'm also your father's friend, Yemo. I was passing by Jiutang City, so I decided to come by and say hi. My dad already passed away." The girl's eyes turned red. Yemo nodded. "I have already heard. Don't worry, I will take care of this." "You'll take care of this? You sure talk a lot of trash, but I see little action." The man in glasses sneered. Yemo sneered and studied this man. Even if he couldn't really deal with it, there was no need to use that tone. "Yen, he's dash." The woman looked at Yemo in confusion and asked her daughter, "Mom, remember when Dad, Big Sister, and I went to Luo Tsong's magic artifact auction together? He's the person who sold us the necklace," the other girl said. Yemo just realized that the woman was wearing a necklace and understood Ijioha was a family man. "Hello, Jioha's dash." The woman couldn't continue speaking. "Sister-in-law, what do you even know? It's the family's fortune, but you want it to belong to the Liu family. I already promised that you and your two daughters will live without any worries, but you decided to take us to court. What's the result going to be? Do you think Jioha didn't know his surname, is he?" A middle-aged man approached them with a judge and said, "You're shameless," Yen said in anger. The middle-aged man sneered. "Respect your elders. If it weren't for Jioha, I would have already kicked you three out of this city. How dare you try take away the fortune? Bastards." "Sister, don't bother." The younger daughter pulled Yen away. "What? Was Jioha's fortune taken away from you?" Yemo asked with a frown. It seemed the case was about to be closed. Ijioha's wife sighed and didn't say anything. The middle-aged man behind her said, "Although the results haven't been announced yet, they are decided. Xiao Dai and Yen won't get any part of Jioha's fortune. Jioha said he left a will, do you know about it?" Yemo asked strangely. He was angry. How could Ijioha's wife and daughters not get any part of his wealth? Uncle Jun Shan also died last week. The will he had is dash. Xiao Dai looked around, she didn't dare say it was fake. This sounds fishy. Yemo shook his head, he would definitely not allow this to occur in Luoyu. "Who are you anyway? You have no business here, piss off!" The middle-aged man's face sunk as he looked coldly at Yen. Jioha's wife stopped Emo and said, "Since you're Jioha's friend, we can talk on the way to my house." Disloyal woman," the man cursed. Emo was sick of him. He kicked him up in the air and threw him onto the concrete stairs. His head immediately started bleeding. Everyone was shocked. That young man dared to attack someone in front of the courthouse? Soon, people gathered around him. "Great Judge Chen, Lu Lin got someone to brutally attack people at court," a man blamed as he went to help the middle-aged man Emo had kicked. Seeing this, Xiao Dai quickly walked to Emo and said, "Brother Yi, leave quickly. If you get captured, you will go to jail for sure. The man you knocked out is my second uncle, Yi Zhu, and the judge is on his side. My dad's will is fake, yet they say it's real." Chapter 595, So Violent. Chapter 595, So Violent. "What's going dash?" Great Judge Chen walked outside and frowned as he looked at Yi Zhu. But he only got to half of the sentence, and immediately stopped. He opened his mouth wide open in shock. "Great Judge Chen, my brother was beaten at the door of the courthouse. If the perpetrator won't get dash." Ichihai also stopped talking, looking in confusion at Great Judge Chen. Great Judge Chen quickly walked up to Emo and bowed. "Young Master Emo, I didn't expect you to come to Jiotong City. It really dash, who are you?" Emo looked at the man and asked. He had seen the guy before when he helped Shi Xiu at the Wutong restaurant. He was Wu Zei's friend. He was probably an official in Beijing. The man quickly said carefully, "Young Master Emo, I'm Wu Zei's friend, Chen Huichang. I was moved to Jiotong City to be the citizens' great judge. I had the honor of eating with you at Wutong restaurant." Emo nodded. "So, does that mean you're responsible for the Jioha will case?" Yes, I know this case. Another judge is responsible for it," Chen Huichang said carefully. He hadn't expected Jioha to have such a powerful ally. He knew that case for too well, he was indirectly helping them. "Then, this means that you knew this case was dodgy and that Jioha's will has been switched, right?" Emo's words shook everyone. Who dared to speak to a judge like that? Especially in public. This dash. Chen Huiyang was sweating. He knew that if he replied yes, then his career would be over. However, if he didn't reply, Emo wouldn't have mercy on him. "If you don't reply within 3 seconds, you won't need to reply at all." Emo's voice sounded cold. Chen Huichang thought about the situation carefully. If he replied, he would lose his job at most, but it was still much better than losing his life. Yes, the will is fake. In order to frame Lu Lin and her daughters, Ichihai plotted with other people to make a fake will. Bastard. You knew it was fake and you still dared support them. Slapdash. Emo slapped him. Chen Huichang spun on the spot before falling onto Yi Zhu. Everyone was dumbfounded. Who was that young Master Mo? He had dared slap a great judge in front of court. Even the great judge didn't dare to lie in front of Emo and told the truth. Ichihai suddenly felt cold. He could tell that young Master Mo was no ordinary person. He must not let him stand on Lu Lin's side, so he would fix the situation before that young master could counterattack. With these thoughts in mind, Ichihai walked up to Emo and took out a cigarette. Before he could say anything, he was kicked to the side by Emo. So violent. Everyone was looking at the scene. What shocked people the most was that Chen Huichang crawled up, wiped the blood from his mouth and ran to Emo, as though waiting to be hit again. 2 policemen who were about to go capture Emo immediately stopped on the spot. Young Master Mo, please tell me what to do. Chen Huiyang tried to make his tones sound calm. He cursed himself for not investigating Jioha properly before doing this. Judge this case again and make sure to send the people who made the fake will rot in prison. I don't have time to stay in Jiotong, but I will come back and check. If I'm not happy with what you did when I come back, then don't blame me for what I might do, Emo said coldly. Chen Huiyang breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly said, Yes, I will judge this case fairly. Chen Huizhang seemed to want to say something else, but eventually didn't. Lu Lin's two daughters and the two middle-aged men were completely dumbfounded. They had seen ferocious people before, but never someone as ferocious as Emo Ijioha's wife reacted quickly. She knew this friend of her husband's was not ordinary at all. Her body shook with excitement. Ever since her husband had died, they had been simply toys about to be kicked out of the city. Lu Lin saw Chen Huizhang's hesitation, and after thinking about it, she soon understood why. Lu Lin approached Emo and said, "Jioha's second sister-in-law's father is the secretary of Jiotong City, I think dash." She didn't finish the sentence. Emo immediately understood. Chen Huizhang was hesitant, because he wasn't sure if he could beat that secretary. After all, he had only been there for a short while, and Emo said he was leaving. "I'll find someone to help." Emo took out his phone and decided to call Li Chunxing. He didn't know many officials, but Li Chunxing was in Hefeng's city of Hedong province, so he should be able to help here. Li Chunxing had been doing very well lately. He had been getting promoted quite fast thanks to his own capabilities, but because he didn't have support, he had to share his political achievements with others. Once he met Emo and received help from the Li family as well as taking care of big issues in Hefeng, he got promoted again in a short time. He was now the secretary of Hefeng City, a Hedong province senator, and vice political secretary of Hedong province. This meant that he was going to be the next secretary of Hedong province. Li Chunxing, who had risen like a rocket, was just eating with other senators after a meeting. At that moment, Li Chunxing's phone rang. Only his family and a few special higher-ups could call his private number. But what shocked everyone was that as soon as he picked up, he immediately got up and seemed very respectful. Everyone was trying to guess who the caller was. It could only be a higher-up from Beijing. Yes, yes. Li Chunxing kept agreeing for a while, and then finally hung up. No one usually asked about these kind of calls, so Li Chunxing decided to say, "Someone called to tell me about a will case in Jiotong City. Someone changed the content of a will in order to win over a fortune, and what is more, the judge confided with these people to frame the innocent. I need to go to Jiotong personally." What? For a mere will case, Li Chunxing was going there personally? Who did this case involve? Seeing Li Chunxing apologize and quickly leave the restaurant, everyone was shocked. He had given up the opportunity to talk with all of these province-level leaders for a case in Jiotong? Emo put down his phone and looked at the man in glasses. He said, "Who is he?" Lu Lin quickly said, "Let me introduce you. He's our lawyer Wang Yi, and this is my brother Lu Mang." Emo nodded. "I suspect that there might be something wrong with your lawyer. Chen Huichang, check if he's clean." "Yes, young Master Emo." Chen Huichang had heard Emo call Li Chunxing. He knew that Li Chunxing had become quite powerful, thus he spoke even more carefully. The man in glasses' expression turned bad, but he didn't dare say anything. Emo left things to Li Chunxing. He was confident he would be able to deal with it. The first thing he did after leaving Jiotong was going back to that temple. Emo searched the place carefully. There were indeed marks of a formation, but it had already been removed. When Emo got back to the underground room, he immediately realized that he had missed some details the first time he came. Chapter 596 The Seven Stars of Beidou. Chapter 596 The Seven Stars of Beidou. The room was still there, but the wooden box Emo had left on the ground was gone. He realized at once that people had come back after he left, and just took the box. Emo carefully searched around the room with his spirit sense. 10 minutes later, he finally spotted something. There was something protruding at the head of the entrance. Emo pressed it, and something rumbled behind him. He turned around and saw a door appear on the stone wall. Emo realized he had missed his best chance. When he first came there, perhaps Wei Yongqian and that nun had been hiding in the stone cave, but now it was too late. When he walked inside, he found out that it was a tunnel. Without a doubt, Wei Yongqian had gotten away through there. Emo started looking around, and after a while, the door closed itself. He continued walking down the tunnel. 10 minutes later, Yemo had pushed aside a big rock and was standing at the end of the tunnel. It was a cliff, and below it there was river. Yemo was uncomfortable with the fact that Wei Yongqian escaped in front of his eyes. The main thing was that the golden page has been so close to him, however it was now gone. Yemo remembered that the nun was from the Xiahengjing temple, and Xiahengjing was one of the 3 big sects of the inner hidden sections. Yemo then decided to go to the inner hidden sects, since he really wanted the last golden page. If he could gather the 3 of them and form a world, his accomplishments in the future would be unlimited. Perhaps, not even the strongest person on Luoyu continent would be a match for him. Although Yemo didn't understand a lot of things, it didn't mean he hadn't heard of it. His master Luoying had told him before that masters that cultivate to the extreme all have their own worlds. Those who cultivate to the extreme can ascend to the immortal realm, and they have worlds that exceed Luoyu continent itself. He was at stage 5 middle level now. Excluding those top-level Great Heaven Masters, he should be able to face any Renping Chuan level master. If I had a world, Yemo's heart was burning with desire. He didn't dare to keep thinking. At the Duanheng Ranges, in the Sea of Clouds. It was the second time Yemo went there. He had come there before to find the Duanheng 7 stars. Luo Xian had told him that the entrance to the inner hidden sects was at the Tiankou position of the Duanheng 7 stars. Duanheng was one of the younger ranges in the world. Yemo had been searching the ranges for 5 days, but he still couldn't find the 7 stars, much less the Tiankou position. There were too many peaks there, and they were too similar. Moreover, they were hiding in the clouds, so it was really hard to find 7 peaks that looked like the 7 stars. On the 6th day, Yemo decided to stop looking from the air. He went into the valley and started searching on the ground. On the 6th night, Yemo found a motorbike in a bush with some fuel still inside. There were some footprints in front of it. Yemo looked at them closely. They belonged to 2 people. He followed the prints for 10 minutes and eventually found a huge natural valley. The entrance was very small. After walking inside, Yemo immediately felt something was different. It was as though the valley was an entrance. Yemo looked around him. Although there were seas of clouds everywhere, he was shook. He clearly saw that under the sea of clouds there were 7 not very tall peaks. The valley had a spoon-shaped distribution. Duanheng 7 stars? Yemo said subconsciously. No wonder he couldn't see it from outside, one could only see it from the inside. Yemo saw this and couldn't help but admire the wonders of nature. Now that he had found the 7 stars, it was very easy to find the Tiankou position. He climbed to Tiankou's peak, where he found a stone with a 3-meter diameter in front of him. There was a person in the middle of the rock, to be exact, a dead person. It was a middle-aged man. His body was dry, there was not a single bit of blood in him. It was as though all of his blood had been sucked away. Yemo walked to the body and took out an identity document from it. He immediately knew who the man was. It was Wei Yongqian. So he had died there. There was no doubt. Yemo knew his death was related to that nun. It meant that she was returning to the sect, and made Wei Yongqian take her there before killing him. But even if Wei Yongqian had to die, there was no need to take out all of his blood. Was that nun a psycho? Furthermore, Luoyin had said that the formation to the inner hidden sects had been closed. Hence, why did the nun bother making Wei Yongqian take her there? Yemo looked around. He had come from the cultivation realm and knew about formations, but he really didn't understand how the Beidou 7 stars worked. The large rock also didn't have anything special to it. Yemo walked to the middle of the big rock and stepped on it. It wasn't hollow inside, it was just like a normal rock. He scanned his spirit sense down but couldn't reach very deep. He subconsciously inserted his cultivation energy inside, but as soon as the two touched, his energy started getting sucked away uncontrollably. Yemo was shook. He wanted to leave the rock, but he was completely stuck. He couldn't move his arms or legs. Qi flowed like a river into the rock. Yemo started to sweat. If this continued, he would be sucked dry. Yemo looked at Wei Yongqian. Had he been sucked dry to death because of this? Yemo thought desperately of a way to escape. The only thing he could do was to use his remaining chi to charge at the rock and break free. But that way, he might get heavily injured due to the backlash. That bastard old nun! If she hadn't taken the third golden page, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Yemo gritted his teeth and knew that if he didn't try it now, he wouldn't have the chance to try at all. With these thoughts in mind, Yemo gathered all of the chi in his body and blasted it at the suction force, forcibly stopping the draining of his chi. The huge repulsion came, and Yemo flew back into the air, spitting blood before crashing heavily into a rock. Chapter 597, The Road is Narrow. Chapter 597, The Road is Narrow. Yemo couldn't help but curse. F***ck. He had smashed onto a rock, and not only was his left leg broken, but his chest was also smashed in heavily. The main thing was that he couldn't use his chi. Yemo's heart sunk. Something had even happened to his dantian. He had wanted to escape that huge suction force, but the first part of his body to face the repulsion force was his dantian. Luckily he had quite a bit of Lotus Life pills on him, but as Yemo subconsciously wanted to take one out from his ring, he immediately felt cold sweat. He couldn't use his spirit sense. A broken leg was a small problem for Yemo, and the dantian damage was a major issue, but compared to his spirit sense, both were nothing at all. If he couldn't use his spirit sense, wouldn't that make him completely powerless? Realizing the state he was in, Yemo began to worry. He had seen a black bear before. What if some other beast comes? He would only be able to wait for death. Luckily he was a cultivator and figured out reality at least somewhat on time. His state was much better than being sucked dry. He looked at Wei Yongqian and suspected that he was sucked dry, because he inserted his inner chi inside. Or maybe that old nun had found him for the express purpose of getting him sucked dry so that she could enter the formation. If that was the case, there were people everywhere. Why take this Wei Yongqian? Yemo suddenly thought of something. The old nun was heavily injured. Did she not know about the danger of this rock before and tried to manipulate it with her inner chi, in the end getting injured like him? And then maybe as she wanted another way to enter the formation, she let Wei Yongqian feed it? If that was the case, then it still wouldn't explain why she had to take precisely Wei Yongqian. Yemo thought about another point. He was stage 5 middle level already, and that nun was only half-step great heaven. So how come he was injured so heavily yet that old nun could still go all the way to Mount Xian? Did she have a better way of escaping than him? There was one more possibility, which was that the nun wasn't injured there, but that she was injured by someone else. But Yemo didn't really think much of that theory. There was really no one who could injure that nun except for Renping Chuan, but he was already dead. Yemo rested for a while and recovered some strength, but still couldn't use his chi. He struggled up and found a stick to use as a walking stick. He slowly moved on top of the big rock and looked at it carefully. However, he couldn't find anything special about it. Yemo sighed. Even when he had his spirit sense, he hadn't managed to see anything. Yemo walked to Wei Yongqian and searched his body, finding a few $100. But he didn't find a phone. Yemo thought that if he could find a phone, he could call Ning Qingxue or Tang Beiwei. If they knew he was here, they could come and open his ring, as they both had spirit sense. For the first time, Yemo felt tragic. Even back when he fought Renping Chuan, it wasn't as bad as today. Yemo found some herbs and tied his broken leg to a stick, before he applied the herbs and then rested easy. Before he managed to take out the things in his ring, he could at least try to go back to Ninghai as long as he recovered the strength of a normal human. But as Yemo walked to the entrance of the valley and was prepared to go out, his face looked extremely bad. He noticed an old nun in blue clothes carry a small bag as she walked in, and the nun also noticed Yemo. The two stared at each other for a long time without saying anything. But Yemo reacted fast. He pretended to be shocked and asked, "Master, I was on an adventure with a few friends in the Sea of Clouds, but we encountered a bear, and I was chased in here. How did you find this place, master?" Yemo looked at the nun and knew that she might possibly be the old nun Tang Beiwei had talked about. He didn't expect her to still be there. Yemo cursed. If he had gone there 3 hours later, this nun would be a meal on a platter. Yet now, he was her meal. The nun also reacted and breathed a sigh of relief. No matter whether this guy's words were real or false, it seemed that only he knew about the place. It wouldn't be good if too many people knew about it. There was indeed a bear in the area, and she had seen it more than once, but she was still doubtful of Yemo's words. It was too coincidental to be true for Yemo to have found this place while running away. "Oh, I'm from Yenjing Mosque, and I need to gather some rare herbs, hence I came here. I didn't expect to be able to see anyone here. Did you encounter a black bear? That's really dangerous," the nun said with a worried face. Yemo studied the nun carefully. She was at most 50, and her skin was very pale, but her brows looked good. If it wasn't for the few wrinkles on her forehead, Yemo wouldn't be able to tell her age at all. Although he didn't have his spirit sense, he could tell that she was heavily injured like him, but she was still in a much better state than him. If they were to fight, Yemo was sure that he wouldn't be able to survive even one move. "Where is that bear? Would you meet it again if you were to leave?" the nun asked as the worry on her face got more intense. Yemo said with a bad face, "I don't want to risk it and go out now, but at the same time, I see that this place is also very eerie. I saw a dead person laying on a stone just now, so I don't dare stay here. I would rather face a bear than a dead person. By the way, Master, what is your name? It's very dangerous to pick herbs alone in this place, so I think we should leave this place together. 2 is better than 1 after all." Yemo acted as though he was thinking for the nun. The nun's eyes flashed with coldness at the last part, but when she saw the worry in Yemo's eyes, she smiled. "It's fine, our mosque knows some simple martial arts, so we can deal with some basic dangers." "Yeah, I know you can," Yemo thought, but then he noticed the coldness in her eyes and was afraid he had spilled the beans somewhere. Although, he had been very careful when he spoke. But then her tone obviously contradicted her expression from before. He immediately figured out what he needed to work on. He immediately looked up in surprise and joy. "Master, do you really know martial arts? Can I learn? I heard a lot of masters live deep in the mountains. Is your Yenjin Mosque also like that, deep in the mountains?" Then, Yemo gave the nun an expectant look, and he saw the nun give a look of acceptance. She had been testing him. In China, there were a lot of tales of masters deep in the mountains, and many people wanted to meet such a master and be taught unimaginable power. Yemo suddenly realized why Wei Yongqian must have been together with this nun. "My Dao name is Jiesun. If you wish to learn from a master, I can introduce you, but we take in disciples very strictly." The nun smiled and said, "Master Jiesun, I'm willing to take the test as long as I can learn." Yemo looked desperate on the outside, but he was contemptuous of himself on the inside. Perhaps he could win an Oscar with his performance. Chapter 598, Using Each Other. Chapter 598, Using Each Other. Yemo saw that there was something off when she smiled, as though he was being stared at by a hungry wolf. But since she had said that, it meant that she didn't plan on killing him for now. Yemo thought of Jingxi. Compared to that pale-faced nun, he would rather face him. At least Jingxi was much prettier and younger than that old lady. Her chest was much better than that chest as flat as an airport. Thinking about Jingxi, he remembered her red belly cover. She was rather sexy. After realizing he was thinking of that woman, Yemo shook his head and sighed. He had punched her off a cliff. She should be dead no matter what. If it hadn't been for that woman, he wouldn't have had to be separated from Luoying. He knew that Luoying still missed him, otherwise she wouldn't have gone all the way to the desert and taken away the pool. It was just that, in her mind, she couldn't pass that moral barrier. The nun gave a milky white stone to Yemo and said, "Hold this stone tightly and tell me how you feel." Yemo looked at the stone and howled in his heart. Was that a spirit stone? Where did she get this? He had been looking around for one all over, yet she just casually took one out. Although he couldn't digest the spirit chi, Yemo felt comfort and happiness as soon as he grabbed it. Before he could react, the nun took the spirit stone away. Yemo looked at the stone in the nun's hands. He wanted to steal it and say, "Letting you have it is like letting rats eat wheat. Don't waste food." But Yemo knew that it was best not to do anything. "Do you feel very comfortable and happy?" The nun's eyes looked happy. Yemo thought about what to reply. The nun had seen his expression, so he could only say, "Yes, I do feel like that." "What is it?" "What is this rock?" "Master Jiesun, can you tell me where you found this stone? I also want to look for it. It's very hard to find this stone, but since you have that feeling, it means you have a talent for cultivating ancient martial arts. In that case, come with me. Don't worry, it's not my first time here. Even if we see a black bear, I can take care of you." Jiesun nodded. Yemo was breathing heavily. He had tried his best, but the nun was still going to take him in and kill him? Should he run? Even if he did, he couldn't escape. However, if the nun was planning on killing him, she could do it now. There was no point in taking him down to the valley. Yemo could only pretend to be overjoyed as he walked with her towards the big rock. She stood on the rock and then said to Yemo, "Use your foot to step here. Let me see your martial talent." Yemo looked at where she pointed at. It was the place he had stood on not long ago, and almost died at. Now the nun wanted him to do it again, so Yemo wanted to run away immediately. But he knew that as soon as he would start running, he'd be dead. Hence, Yemo knew he had to do what the nun said, and so he did. He thought that if he didn't use force, nothing would happen. As soon as Yemo stood there, the nun hit the place where his foot touched the rock with her palm, which was full of inner chi. His heart sunk. It was over. The nun was using her inner chi to catalyze the suction force of the rock, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to resist at all. But Yemo didn't feel the rock suck away his blood. In fact, there was no movement at all. Although he didn't know why, Yemo rejoiced. It seemed like that place wouldn't suck him a second time. No way, Jiesun said subconsciously. Yemo pretended not to know anything and asked, "Master Jiesun, what's impossible?" Jiesun cursed. Yemo had no value anymore, so she didn't want to waste her breath. Yemo saw the killing intent in her eyes and quickly realized things weren't going well. He immediately said, "Master Jiesun, is my talent not good enough? If it isn't, I still have a few cousins. Should I bring them here for you to meet them? I could even help you test them as long as you teach me how to do it." Yemo's words made her hesitate. She looked at Yemo and said, "We don't take in disciples that easily, they must be tested many times. But you can try if you want." Yemo quickly said, "I have a few cousins who all want to learn from a master, but they've never had the luck to meet someone like you. It's my fortune to be able to meet a master. If my talent isn't sufficient, I can just learn a few moves from them. I can help you test the rest of the people in town. There's bound to be someone who is truly talented." The nun actually nodded. "Okay, in that case, I'll go with you. It's not that your talent isn't enough, but it's not great either. I'm scared that the mosque will be too strict, and I don't want to give you false hopes. By the way, what is your name? Where do you live?" Yemo was now sure what it had all been about. The woman had no good intentions. Her spirit stone could test a certain trait, and she would take those who had it along to have the formation suck their blood. That might be the secret to activating this formation, but he still didn't understand it. Yemo looked at Wei Yongqian. He had been the last target, but his blood hadn't been enough, so Jiesun went looking for more people. Was she using the stone to sense and track down people with spirit roots? Yemo shivered at this thought. Qingxue and Beiwei all had spirit roots, they must not meet this monster. But he also had a spirit root, why wasn't he hurt then? He was the first time, but not the second. This didn't make sense. He didn't have time to keep thinking, because he had to reply to the nun's words quickly. He didn't know the names of the villages nearby. If the nun saw through that, he would die immediately. He could only say, "I'm quite ashamed, I'm from Huiyan town, and I've never heard of Yanjing Mosque." Yemo was worried about the old nun asking him to lead the way. What would he do then? Chapter 599, The Opportunity is Here. Chapter 599, The Opportunity is Here. The nun heard Yemo's words and was expressionless. She took out a black pill and gave it to Yemo. It'll help with your wound, take it. Yemo took this pill, but his expression immediately turned angry. He could tell the black pill wasn't going to cure anything. Because it was poorly made, Yemo could smell the Bingshire grass scent. It's pungent and highly poisonous. After eating it, it can block out one's 5 senses, and if one didn't get the antidote within 49 days, one would lose their 5 senses forever. But Yemo had the lotus life seed. He could cure it even if it was 49 years later. The nun was so cruel. She was giving him such a thing. Did she not want him to help? Master Jie-sun, I only have some mild injuries. This leg will be fine in a few days. I don't need to take a pill. Yemo glanced at the nun's cold eyes and continued. This pill is too precious and I should save it for later. It's fine, I have a lot of these. You can take as many as you want. The nun's face was calm, as though she really had a lot. But Yemo knew it was very hard to get the Bingshire grass. She couldn't have a lot. She was forcing him to eat it. Did that mean she suspected him? Thinking about this, he said, I should leave these good things for master. I'm not used to eating these things. You say you want to learn from a master, but still suspect me. Who are you? Huiyan Town doesn't exist at all. The nun's expression looking angry. Yemo was shook. No way. When she mentioned Huiyan Town, he realized that she never planned on letting him live. She wouldn't name a fake place. Wait. The nun was tricking him. Realizing this, he faked astonishment. Master, how is that possible? A lot of people know about Huiyan Town. In fact, all of those who come looking for adventures to Duanheng Ranges stay there. In that case, take me there first. I do need some people with martial talent. It was as though the old nun hadn't accused him a few seconds ago. Yemo cursed that old fart for being shameless. If he hadn't withstood the test, perhaps he would have been tricked. One could see that the nun was already suspicious about him. Yemo could only act as though he didn't know anything and follow the nun with joy, but he secretly put the pill away. What? You don't trust me? Why don't you take that pill? Don't you want to get better sooner? Jie-sun looked at Yemo with intent. Yemo cursed. He was being threatened by an old woman. Despite so, he had no choice but to eat the pill. He knew what the nun wanted, which was to make him unable to call for help. Yemo realized that the nun wouldn't relax at all around him for at least half a month. As soon as she did, he would escape to Beiwei and eat the Lotus Life pill. But if he ran away, the nun would find out. If she couldn't find him on time, perhaps she would be the one running. However, if she managed to get away, he wouldn't be able to get his golden page and spirit stone. Yemo suddenly thought of the motorbike he had seen. If he used that, could he escape? Do you know a lot of people at the Huiyan Town? The old nun suddenly asked. Yeah, I know most of the young people there. They would all like to train martial arts if dash. Yemo still wanted to say something else, but the nun stopped him. I need you to help me out big time. I don't need you to know a lot of people. Just put up a board saying testing martial talents. The old nun waved her hand. Wear this. The old nun suddenly took out a thin object and gave it to Yemo. Yemo cursed again. How did that nun have so many good items? This was a one-time use mask and the materials were very expensive. A normal person wouldn't be able to take it off in his life once it was worn. He really suspected that the nun had found an ancient cultivation home. If he recovered his power, he wouldn't have to worry about the mask. Once you put it on, don't try to take off at any random moment. You can only take it off when I help you. Her tone was calm, but Yemo could feel the killing intent. He sighed, but he could only agree and put the mask on. The nun nodded satisfyingly when she saw Yemo wasn't resisting at all. He felt a light breeze blowing with a faint smell of blood. He immediately knew that it was the black bear. It actually came to them. Yemo knew that this was his chance. Master Jie-sun, let me see that stone again. It's very strange, I think I've seen it somewhere before. Emo had an idea. For some reason, the nun actually gave it to Emo. You can have a look. When you use the stone to test them, I will be looking on the side. If they meet the requirements, I will tell you. If I don't say anything, it means they didn't pass. Emo quickly thanked her and grabbed the spirit stone excited. The stone was much bigger than the ones he had gotten in the Nei snow mountains. Emo fell a few steps behind, and then they heard a roar. A huge black bear saw the nun and him and charged at them. Emo rejoiced. The bear had come just at the right time. He turned around and ran without thinking. Master Jiesun, I was chased here by this bear. It came again, I will retreat, don't worry about me. Emo jumped onto a branch and ran rapidly. Jiesun tried to grab the spirit stone and throw him to the bear, but she missed. The reason she had kept Emo was indeed for him to get more people, but it was mainly to find out why Emo could feel the stone but not be sucked by the formation. However, when she had to face the threat of the bear, she cast Emo's life aside. Although she could get rid of the bear, if she did, she would have to use a lot of chi and the young man might escape. Moreover, the stone was in his hands now. But Emo was already more than 10 meters away. Jiesun cursed, but took out her horsetail whisk broom and whipped the bear's eyes. Emo looked back and confirmed it. The nun was also heavily injured. If she hadn't been, he wouldn't have been able to run away. She could have killed the bear with one kick. After all, she had half-step great heaven power. But it wasn't the case, and when she took out her whisk, her reaction had been too slow. The whisk managed to hit the bear's head, but the bear's hide was thick. The strike made it furious, and it charged at the nun again. Emo was running to the motorbike, but he was in no rush. If the nun was no match for the bear, then he wanted to try and take the nun's bag and see if the golden page was in there. Just when the bear was about to ram the nun, she hummed something and kicked the bear's throat. The bear rolled downhill many times and managed to stand up, but he didn't dare go up again. Emo immediately realized that it was the bear that was no match for the nun. It seemed like he should start running. Seeing Emo run, the nun got furious and started chasing him. The bear saw the nun run and thought the nun was running from it. It instinctively charged at her again. Chapter 600, Run Through Water. Chapter 600, Run Through Water. The nun pulled out a dagger and used it to stab at the bear. A deep gash immediately appeared on the dumb bear's hide, and it ran away whimpering. The nun wasn't interested in chasing the bear. She had seen Emo get on the motorbike and chased after him immediately. Although she was fast, Emo had already started the motorbike and left earlier than her. "Stop or I will kill you right now!" Jiesun called out. She had to expend a lot of the inner chi she had managed to gather after a long time, because it was definitely hard for her to try to chase up to Emo. She didn't expect this kid to be so sneaky and run at the perfect moment. She regretted not dealing with the motorbike earlier. However, she believed that it would only be a matter of time before she caught up. Suddenly, Jiesun thought of some details. Had this kid already found out that she wanted to kill him? If not, why would he be running? Also, he chose such a perfect time. Did he know that the bear was coming? But how? Strangely, he had also taken her chi stone away. If he knew everything beforehand and this was all part of his calculations, then he was too scary. She had to kill someone that scary, or she would suffer greatly one day. Was he a hidden sect cultivator? Considering everything, it did make sense. He had probably also gotten hurt due to that formation, just like her. Upon realizing it, she hated herself for not figuring things out earlier. The kid might perhaps have even come there for the Ni Luo Sutra. If it wasn't that she had to go back to look for Luo Xian, perhaps she wouldn't even go back to the inner hidden sections. Luo Xian had been the first to have the sutra, so she must have been involved in the other pages going missing. Luo Xian, that horny little bitch, always looked like she didn't understand anything, yet as soon as she arrived in the outside world, she was tricked. If she didn't keep the 2 pages for herself, then she probably gave them away. She should have killed those 3 martial sisters from the very beginning. Luo Fei was no saint either. Luo Fei had also wanted the Ni Luo Sutra for the man who tricked her, but she couldn't find Luo Fei now. She really didn't understand why the younger generation was so shallow. Did all of them have to find a man, even daring to lie to their sect for them? Although she lied to her sect too, it was for herself, not for some man. A man was only useful for that business. Was it really worth so much trouble? Yemo heard the nuns howling and sneered he wasn't an idiot. It would be suicide if he stopped now. Yemo had made up his mind to travel to Ninghai as soon as he reached the city, and have Beiwei help him. Once he recovered his power, the first thing he would do would be to teach that nun a lesson. But soon Yemo couldn't laugh anymore, because the fuel meter of his bike was in the red zone. Yemo looked back and saw that the nun was still chasing him. Although he was worried, he couldn't do anything. Seeing the woman get closer and closer, Yemo knew he would be dead meat if he didn't think of another way. How would he stall for time with this nun? You have the 2 remaining golden pages, right? And it was also you who went to the underground room, right? If you stop now and give it all to me, I can promise I will let you live. However, if you keep running, I will catch up. And the first thing I'll do when I go back will be to kill Luo Xian. Her words almost made Yemo fall off his bike. He didn't think this woman would be so smart. She had guessed everything. But he had no intention of stalling time with her anymore. Since she had found out all that, if he fell in her hands he would be dead for sure. The fuel was about to run out, so at a turn, Yemo hit the throttle all the way and used the momentum to charge down a cliff. Yemo knew the nun would catch up soon, so he resisted the pain and crawled down the cliff. He wanted to hide somewhere she couldn't see him and make her think he fell off the cliff. But the pain from his leg combined with his lack of chi made him unable to stop himself, and he really started falling down. Yemo's heart sunk. In Qinongjia, Qingxue had been there to save him, but now he fell below the Duanhang ranges. No one would know about it. Perhaps he was even falling to his death. Splash Yemo found himself in a pond after falling through branches upon branches. Yemo might not have fallen to his death thanks to things cushioning his fall, but he was covered in wounds. As the cold water cleared his head, Yemo realized that it was only more dangerous in the pond, because that nun would get there very quickly. Looking at the flowing water, Yemo allowed himself to get dragged along by the current. If he was washed away by the water he might at least still have a chance to live, but if he fell in the nun's hands, he wouldn't have any chance at all. Luckily, she was heavily injured and it would take her some time to go after him. By that time, he would be washed away by the water. The water kept brushing against Yemo's body as Yemo twirled forward. He kept crashing into rocks in the river, and not a single spot of good skin remained on him. Yemo tried to avoid hurting his eyes and focused himself the best he could. He didn't dare relax at all or let himself fall unconscious, as that would mean certain death. Luckily, his will was very strong, and he managed to stay conscious. After a long while, just when Yemo thought he wouldn't be able to hold on anymore, the water slowed down around him, and he floated to the water surface. He saw that he was in a not too wide river as the water continued flowing downstream. He had finally made it. Yemo breathed a sigh of relief instinctively, but he then immediately tensed up again. He realized that he couldn't hear much and that, without a doubt, he wasn't able to speak either. The pill was starting to take effect. That damned nun! However, Yemo couldn't do anything about it, and he was still in danger. The nun would find the place in a very short time, so Yemo planned to swim downstream and see if there were any boats. But as Yemo swam a few hundred meters, he knew that wasn't going to work. He had lost a lot of blood and was full of injuries. He couldn't even properly swim, but even if he could, he wouldn't be able to escape from the nun. It wasn't realistic to hide somewhere nearby either. Just when Yemo was unsure of what to do, a loud song was audible in the vicinity. Yemo subconsciously looked around and saw a bamboo raft come from upstream. A man in his 50s on board with 4 baskets full of herbs. The raft was fast and could be a great help to Yemo, but Yemo didn't call for help. Instead, he waited for the right time to dash under the raft and grab the bottom. Big brother, wait a moment! Just as Yemo stabilized himself under the raft, he heard Jiesun call out from the bank. Chapter 601. See each other yet not know each other. Chapter 601. See each other yet not know each other. That was really close, Yemo thought. The nun had caught up to him really quickly. He only managed to be a bit faster than her, even while flowing downstream. If it weren't for the raft, perhaps he would have even been caught. Are you talking to me? The herb picker slowed down. Yes. Have you seen anyone nearby? Jieshua asked. No, I've been around the area collecting herbs, but I didn't see anyone. Do you need my help? This herb picker was very kind-hearted. As Yemo began to worry about Jiexian asking the man to row to the bank, Jiexian asked, Big brother, can you carry all of these cradles of herbs yourself? Just one cradle must be very heavy, right? The herb picker smiled. He grabbed 2 cradles in each hand, lifted all 4 and said, They are very light. Master, would you like me to take you dash? But before he finished the sentence, he realized that the nun was gone. If she hadn't replied a moment ago, he would have thought it was a ghost. The herb picker shook his head and kept singing as he rafted down the stream. Luckily, the nun was inexperienced and only considered Yemo could be hiding in the herb baskets. An hour later, the raft stopped at a village. Yemo looked up subconsciously and saw that the place he was in was a very remote place. However, a faint smoke rose through the sky, giving off a serene feeling. There were around 20 to 30 families in the village, together with the occasional noises from chickens and dogs, and there was only one road. If your goal was to hide, no one would find you there. The village gave Yemo an indescribable feeling. He subconsciously felt like he shouldn't leave the place and stay there to cure his wounds. Uncle Wang is back! A few kids waved to the herb picker. A middle-aged woman just finished washing a basket of clothes, and as she saw the man on the raft, she said, Old Wang, it seems you found quite a lot today. Hee, I found a wild ginseng today. I don't need to go up for a few months, the man said happily. Let me see. The woman quickly ran up to the man to see the ginseng. Yemo couldn't hear the rest of their conversation, and seeing the two leave, he carefully crawled out of the water and onto the banks. He was very weak and felt pain everywhere in his body. He knew that if he didn't find a place to recover, the consequences would be unpredictable. After using all of his power, he struggled to one corner of the village and noticed a house 200 meters away. This house was built on higher ground and seemed a little distant from the rest of the houses in the village. Yemo thought for a bit and decided to go to that solitary house. He didn't dare let anyone see him. Who knew if the nun wouldn't stumble upon the village as well? Yemo saw from the door that there were no people inside and carefully creeped in. He wanted to find some food and get a change of clothes. His clothes were all in rags, but Yemo could only rejoice that he had managed to escape from Jiexian. If it wasn't for that bear, who knew what the nun would be doing to him by then? There weren't a lot of things in the room, but it was clean. Yemo almost didn't believe it was just a small house in the middle of nowhere. It was so clean. The thought crossed his mind for only a brief moment, as he needed to find food. There was a table and simple chair outside, but no food. Yemo walked inside the house and found a bedroom, a bed and a mat. Yemo suddenly felt this layout to be very familiar. Luo Ying's room in Serenity had also been laid out like that. Thinking about Luo Ying, Yemo's heart seemed to be wrenched. He didn't want to keep staying there. It just made him think of Luo Ying. But when he turned around, he was shocked as if by lightning. Near the window, there was a stone pool. He knew that pool all too well. It was the one he gave to Luo Ying in the desert. Was this where his master, Luo Ying, lived? Yemo wanted to scream Susu, but he couldn't. He felt his body shaking. Susu was here? This was where she lived. Yemo stared dumbly at that stone pool and wanted to touch it, but suddenly, he couldn't move anymore. It was as though he froze. He had no more thoughts, no more movements, no more pain. The only thing left in his world of view was the stone pool. He wanted to grab it and tell Susu he was back. After a long while, Emo recovered his motion capability and shifted over carefully. Once he grabbed the stone pool, his thoughts froze again. He felt that he wasn't able to control his tears. He had never in a moment in his life been so unable to control his emotions. At that moment, a young woman wearing linen clothes was carrying a small basket and walking towards her house, and when she saw that her door was open, she quickly ran in. When she saw Emo touching the stone pool, she was quite dazed. Extreme anger could be seen erupting from her eyes, as though the most cherished thing in her life had been taken. Emo looked up at the woman. Her hair was coiled up, there was a veil covering her face, and her eyes were clear but angry. Seeing those familiar eyes, Emo froze. Susu, it really was Susu. He wanted to talk, but he couldn't say anything and could only keep tearing. The angry woman saw Emo cry and stopped her anger. Who was this man? Why did he rush into her home and into her room? He was covered in wounds, there were gashes all over his face, and his clothes were ragged. What was this person doing? Why was he crying when she was about to get angry? Why did his eyes seem familiar? What was that emotion she saw in them? Longing? Excitement? Worry? She could feel the man's heartfelt emotions, but she couldn't forgive him for barging into her room. No one in the village would do that, because this was her place. Who are you? Why did you come to my house? Please leave. No, hey, leave. Seeing Emo touch the stone pool again, she finally couldn't resist her anger. Emo couldn't talk and couldn't hear anything, but he could see the anger on her face and suddenly felt dizzy. Chapter 602, Second Sneaky Attack. Chapter 602, Second Sneaky Attack. Emo was too excited and heavily injured, so he finally collapsed the moment he saw Luo Ying. The woman, who had been getting quite angry, saw him faint and quickly ran to check his injuries. She immediately realized it was because of her. Although she didn't know who the man was, she did feel like they'd met before. The man had been touching that stone pool, only she and Emo knew the meaning of it. Was this man Emo? The woman was dazed. As she remembered the look in his eyes, it really was somehow similar to Emo. Was he actually Emo? She unveiled her mask to reveal an out-of-this-world face. It was the very Luo Ying Emo had been looking for such a long time. She carefully studied the man on the ground. At least in his current unconscious state, he didn't really look familiar. She felt his face and didn't notice any marks of appearance-changing tricks, so perhaps she was thinking of Emo too much and was mistaken. Although she was disappointed, she still carried Emo out and took out some herbs to put on Emo's wounds. Then she made a soup and fed Emo. His body was strong, so he should be fine. Although his dantian was damaged and he was heavily wounded, his strong physique due to years of cultivation still showed its properties. It might have been just some normal herbs, but Emo's body did still digest most of it. He opened his eyes and found himself still in that room, but his wounds were much better. Luo Ying had saved him, huh? Right, Luo Ying. Had she recognized him in the end? Emo was shocked and immediately got up to see whether Luo Ying was there. He had finally found Luo Ying. He didn't want to lose her again. As Emo looked up, he saw Luo Ying being busy outside as she was making a small hut. There was a cauldron nearby with herbs inside. Emo smiled bitterly. It would seem that Luo Ying wanted to move him to the other room once he woke up. He was Emo. He had to tell her somehow. Although he couldn't speak or hear, he could write. Emo crawled up. Other than feeling a little hungry, he was much better than yesterday. Even if he couldn't recover his dantian and spirit sense without special means, he could still recover to a normal person's level. Emo stood at the door and looked dazedly at Luo Ying's back. Emo didn't dare believe it was real. Watching her slim figure hustling around was a pleasant scene. He didn't dare to interrupt its serenity. He was afraid if he did, it would all vanish into thin air, and he would have nothing again. Suddenly Emo shivered. He saw an extremely cruel pair of eyes staring at him. It was Jie Xian. She was stared at him like a ghost. He immediately felt cold sweat doing his neck. He regretted coming here. He had brought a disaster to Luoying. The nun had actually gotten there. It seemed that she had realized he had nowhere to go except there. Jie Xian smiled coldly to Emo and looked at Luoying. Her smile was cruel and frosty. Oh no. She hated Luoying too. She probably hated Luoying for saving him and ruining her plans. He wanted to warn Luoying at once, but he couldn't make a sound. Jie Xian's whisk was already in the air, so Yemo ran in front of Luoying without thinking. When she saw Yemo approaching her, she reacted. She was at yellow level after all, and subconsciously took a step back. He didn't manage to cover her, yet at this moment, the whisk landed on Yemo's back. However, Yemo wasn't a bear, he couldn't block it. Splurge. Yemo spat more blood. The strike had almost shifted his organs, which made his injuries even worse. When she saw him lying on the ground and the nun behind him, Luoying understood that the nun had been trying to attack her, and the man she saved used his body to block it. Who are you? Why are you attacking us? Luoying's voice was loud. She was really angry. She came from Serenity. Not even the worst person in the sect would attack a stranger for no reason. Furthermore, she didn't even know that nun. You shouldn't have tried to save him. You will have to die too. Jie Xian's tone was bland, as though it was very reasonable. But instead, Jie Xian didn't attack Luoying. She walked to Yemo, wanting to search his body. Seeing this, Luoyu took out a yellow rope and attacked the nun. You've also learned ancient martial arts. The nun dodged. Please leave now. I won't let you touch him. Luoying detested the nun. Then I'll have to deal with you first. To find a woman as pretty as you in a place like is unusual. Then, she attacked again. She didn't even have 1% of her full power, but she thought that although Luoying was cultivating ancient martial arts, she was barely at yellow level. But after fighting with her, she found out that this absurdly beautiful woman was almost the same as her or even a little stronger. If she hadn't been very experienced and hadn't had a lot of moves, perhaps she would have been defeated already. Luoying rarely fought with people, so she was constantly retreating, but as time went by, she became more fluent in her moves and went from a position of disadvantage to an equal one, and finally to having the upper hand. Jie Xian knew that her inner chi wasn't enough for her to beat her. She really didn't understand why there would that kind of woman be in this distant place. You don't even know him, why are you helping him? If you let me take him away, I can give you an earth-level cultivation method and a black rising pill. Jie Xian knew she couldn't beat Luoying and decided to use an alternative method. She would take away Yemo first, and after the nun completely recovered, come back and kill the woman. Luoying didn't say anything and just kept attacking. She didn't know it was Yemo lying on the ground. If she had, she would have tried to kill Jie Xian with all her might, even if she offered her the immortal rising pill. Seeing Luoying ignore her, Jie Xian got also angry and said, What do you want? Is it worth it for someone you don't know? Let me tell you, that person took my poison. He only has 49 days to live. If you let me take him, he could still survive. However, if he stays here, he will die for sure. Hearing this, Luoying slowed down her attack, and Yemo happened to open up his eyes at this moment. His body was burning with pain, but he couldn't ease it either. Yemo knew that it wasn't going to end well when he saw Luoying slowing down her attack. Jie Xian lowered her whisk and Luoying also put away her rope, but Yemo was worried. He knew how evil this nun was. She had a dagger. She had withdrawn the whisk not to make peace, but to sneakily attack Luoying. Luoying had no fighting experience, so she knew nothing about this. No matter whether Jie Xian was going to attack Luoying, in his desperation and worry, he actually stood up again and ran to Luoying. No one was allowed to harm her. The same thing happened again, but this time, Jie Xian was sneakily attacking Luoying. However, Yemo was again 1 second faster than Jie Xian. Chapter 603. I don't want to care, I just want. Chapter 603. I don't want to care, I just want. The dagger pierced into Yemo's left shoulder, and Yemo, who had barely been able to stand, was catapulted away by the force and fell in front of Luo Ying unconscious again. Seeing this, Luo Ying's heart shook for no reason. She didn't have time to think properly, but she got completely angry at that moment. Yemo got hurt twice to save her. She didn't expect this innocent-looking nun to be so sneaky. Without thinking, she used full force as her yellow robe struck Jie Xian's dantian. Jie Xian didn't expect her killing blow to be blocked by Yemo again. Was he her nemesis or something? Before she could make another move, Luo Ying's rope struck her dantian. She couldn't even react, and Luo Ying dealt a truly hard blow. Even if she had been able to react, she wouldn't have been able to dodge that strike with her current strength. Jie Xian was dazed and spat out blood as well. Her dantian had been damaged even more with that strike, and she knew that if she didn't leave right then, she would never be able to. Her current state was worse than a normal person's. Jie Xian didn't even bother retrieving her dagger, and just left. She started considering if Yemo had predicted everything beforehand. She suddenly felt cold and shivered. If that young man really had known something beforehand, then he was too scary. If it weren't for the 2 golden pages, she would rather never confront someone as scary as him again. Luo Ying quickly helped Yemo up and didn't chase that nun. Seeing this, Jie Xian breathed a sigh of relief. Her wounds wouldn't recover for at least a few months. Luo Ying quickly stopped Yemo's bleeding and was very worried. Yemo felt like his eyelids were extremely heavy as he struggled to open his eyes. He saw a worried look close to his face and thought, Luo Ying, it really is Luo Ying. That beautiful face had appeared in his head countless times, and now it finally appeared before his eyes. Yemo was shaking with excitement. Don't move, I will try to save you. And thank you for saving me. Luo Ying didn't know how to save Yemo, but she felt his shaking. Yemo sensed the nearby Luo Ying and wanted to reach out his hand to feel her face. Seeing Yemo's actions, Luo Ying's face changed. She sneered and put down Yemo heavily. She was really unhappy. She took out a veil, wanting to cover her face. She just wanted this man to be able to move so that he could leave. Yemo suddenly remembered that he had a mask on and that Luo Ying didn't know him. He resisted the strong urge to faint and thought of using the blood on his shoulders to write something. Seeing this, Luo Ying took out a white cloth and threw it in front of Yemo but didn't talk. Yemo wanted to look at Luo Ying again, but he knew his power was limited. He could faint at any moment. After writing the words, he finally couldn't hold on any more and fell unconscious. Luo Ying subconsciously took the cloth, and when she saw the words, her mind blacked out. It was as though all her meridians were frozen and she couldn't move. The cloth had 4 words. I am Yemo. Yemo? Really Yemo? Why doesn't his face look like Yemo's? He must have some masquerading technique applied to him, she thought. Other than Yemo, who would have helped her block the attacks from that nun? Other than Yemo, who would cry while touching the stone pool? Other than Yemo, who would cherish her life more than his own? Why was he here? He must have come to find her. If she knew Yemo would get so hurt trying to find her, she wouldn't have left his side. Yemo! Luo Ying finally reacted and was sure that the person on the ground was Yemo. She cried out his name and fell on Yemo's body before carrying him away. Her tears flew out like an open dam. She suddenly hated herself. Why did she let the nun who tried to kill him go? If she had fought with her life on the line right from the start, would Yemo even have gotten hurt? Luo Ying kept tearing, and she couldn't forgive herself. Suddenly Luo Ying woke up from her tragic feelings. Why was she still crying? She needed to save him. Yemo felt that his soul was about to drift away and felt that his spirit was on the verge of collapse. He knew that he was about to die. He tried to force his soul not to drift away, because he couldn't die. Suddenly, a cool feeling entered his mind, after which he felt lazy and fell asleep. He was dreaming about how he found Luo Ying, brought her back to Luo Yu and had the biggest wedding he could with her and Ning Qingxue. Everyone in Luo Yu came to wish them well. But when he pulled Luo Ying and Ning Qingxue into their room, Luoying told him that she had to go back to Luoyu continent and couldn't stay with him. He tried to grab her hand, but she went further and further away. Susu, don't go! Yemo cried out and opened his eyes to see Luoying watch him with a worried face. She could tell that Yemo wanted to talk yet was unable to say anything. You're awake! You're finally awake! Luoying finally saw Yemo open his eyes and hugged him tightly. Master! Yemo called out to her from the bottom of his heart and fell unconscious again. But now, the time it took him to wake up again was really short, and when he did, he tried to raise his hand and feel Luoying's face. Luoying had gotten a lot skinnier. From the worry and tears on her face, Yemo knew that she had been enduring more than him when he was injured. As he finally touched her face, he said, Master, don't worry about me, I'm fine now. Don't cry, but don't leave me again. Although she didn't know what Yemo was saying, Luoying still nodded, as though knowing what Yemo was saying. She helped him up and wiped her eyes, after which she brought over a bowl of congee. She blew on it carefully and fed it to Yemo. Then she got some water and helped Yemo clean himself, including even brushing his teeth. Susu, the chicken soup is done, you can feed it to the man now. Susu heard a call at the door. She quickly put down her towel after wiping Yemo's face and went out. Andishi, thank you for these last couple of days. And please thank Uncle Wang for that ginseng too. Without your help I dash. Luoying took the pot from the lady and spoke gratefully. Don't say that, Susu, you have cured a lot of sick people in our village. This little amount of help is nothing. Don't worry, I'll do what you told me to, the auntie said. Meanwhile, Yemo looked at the bed and inside a room, and to his surprise, the room seemed different. It would seem that there were more celebratory colors. Just as he was wondering why, Luoying came in with a blush on her face. Yemo wanted to tell her that they weren't brother and sister at all, when suddenly Luoying came over and embraced Yemo's head. Yemo was lost in her faint aroma. Yemo, I don't want to be your master, and I don't want to be your sister. I just want to be your wife, Luoying said. Then, she suddenly remembered something and let go of Yemo before writing. I don't want to be your master. Let's get married. I already told Auntie Shi, so when you start being able to get off the bed, we can have a wedding. Then, her eyes turned red. She knew that Yemo had been poisoned by that nun, but she didn't know what it was. She wanted to take Yemo out as soon as he was better, and if he really couldn't be cured, she would be his wife for 1 month and accompany him in death. Yemo was dazed. He looked at Luoying. Did she know they weren't siblings? But then why hadn't she gone back to find him? Luoying looked at Yemo and blushed, but she continued writing. Yemo, right now, I don't want to care about anything, I just want to marry you and be your wife. We can just live here. Chapter 604. Let me take care of you in this life. Chapter 604. Let me take care of you in this life. Yemo stared at Luoying surprised. He could only think that she perhaps had realized that Jing Shi had lied to her. However, that wasn't the case, yet she still wanted to marry him. The celebrational colors in the room were what she had set up for the wedding, right? Why was she in such a rush? Couldn't she wait until he got better? He still wanted to bring her back to Luoying and have the wedding there. Do you want to marry me? Luoying wrote down with a hopeful look in her eyes. Yemo stood up a bit and wrote, Master, of course I want to marry you. I'm actually not related to you, Jingxi lied. Luoying smiled and leaned on Yemo. She assumed Yemo was comforting her, but it didn't matter to her. Since she had thought it through already, she didn't care. Moreover, she often dreamed that she had met Yemo in their past life. Yemo only had 2 months left to live. She loved him and he loved her. When he died, she would die next to him. It was her greatest fortune to be able to die with Yemo. Don't call me master. I am going to marry you, I want to be your wife. Luoying wrote. Okay. Susu, you're really not related to me, my sister is called Beiwei, she's in Ninghai right now. She's also from Luohong Temple. I will marry you, I want you to be my wife. Yemo could tell that Luoying still had a moral barrier. Really? Luoying looked at Yemo with joy. She stared deeply into his eyes. He wasn't lied to her. Before Yemo could reply, she placed her head on his chest and thanked the heavens. Not only did she get to see Yemo again, but she could also properly marry him. Yemo wiped the tears from her face. He could tell that she had gone through a lot after they got separated. Luoying looked up and greeted Yemo's lips. They kissed. The flower scent made Yemo give in passionately. Their warmth made them forget about time, until Luoying realized that she was losing herself in his arms. She quickly got away from his embrace and looked outside. It was already dark, so she wrote, "You've been unconscious for a few days. Andi, she brought some soup. I'll heat it and feed you. After you've recovered, we can be together." Yemo suddenly remembered Jiexian and wrote, "Susu, we need to get out of here quickly. That old nun won't let us go, she will come back." Luoying smiled and wrote, "She's heavily injured and will need at least a few months to recover. By that time, we'll be gone." After reading this, he calmed down and wrote, "Susu, in a few months I'll take you somewhere else to get married." However, Susu immediately shook her head and wrote, "No, it can't wait. I must marry you immediately." Yemo looked at her. He didn't know why she had to marry him immediately, but he had promised Ningqingxue that they'd get married together. How could he tell her this? Before Yemo could respond, Luoying kissed him and went to make food. He looked at her and felt warm inside. Since she wanted to get married, then so be it. He already had a marriage certificate with Ningqingxue anyway. He would just celebrate it when they got back to Luoyu. The fact that Jiexian was injured was quite convenient. In a few months' time, he could help Luoying reach stage 1, and then help him take out the things in his ring. Or, he could make Bewei come. Yemo had just woken up, but he was still too weak. He only took a few sips of the soup and fell asleep again. When he woke up again, it was already noon of the second day in her house. Luoying wasn't at home. In just one day, she had managed to cover the room in red, and a huge board with the word JOY had been placed on the door. Yemo looked at all of this dazedly. It was as though he had gone back to Luoyu, the time when his master used to teach him how to concoct pills side by side. Now, he was finally going to marry her after all the hardships they had gone through. "In your previous life, you were my master and took care of me. In this life, let me be your master and let me take care of you," Yemo thought. He took out a piece of paper and wrote on it the first level of cultivation method on it. In the depths of the Duanheng Ranges, a very shabby-looking nun sat on a rock. Her face was very scary. The things she had planned kept encountering problems. The only good point was that she knew he probably had the golden page. Yet he was too calculative and too lucky. If it hadn't been for that girl, she would be interrogating him right now. However, not only did she not capture him, but she had also lost her chi stone. That stone was very precious and important for achieving Great Heaven Stage. Even though, she believed she could still reach Great Heaven Stage without it. This time, she was injured heavily. She wouldn't be able to recover completely for a few months, but she only needed a month to recover a third of her power. She had some pills too. Once she recovered to a 30% of her power, that beautiful woman would be no match for her at all. Once she captured her, she would let her know the consequences of offending her. At the same time, the political scene at Hedong was going through a big storm. More and more people had gotten involved, and it was all due to a small case. After realizing the will was fake and the judge had been helping them cover up, Li Chunxing got involved to deal personally with the case. But although the results hadn't come out yet, everyone in the political scene knew that Li Chunxing's future wasn't going to be bright. Li Chunxing sat in his office smoking with a frown. He wouldn't have thought that such a simple case could bring so many problems. However now, not only could he not contact Yemo, but the Beijing Li family couldn't help him either because they couldn't even help themselves at the moment. Li Chunxing's phone calls and actions were all being monitored. Chapter 605, Wedding. Chapter 605, Wedding. Lean Village was located at the foot of a mountain in the Duanheng Ranges and was completely segregated from the world. There were only about 30 families there. The government had been planning on developing tourism there, but due to some issues, it was never put into action. The area was very beautiful. There were mountains and rivers all around. The Lean River continued on into the New River, and further upstream from the village there were valleys that had a lot of natural herbs. They were the main source of income for the people in this village. Today, the village was in a celebrational vibe, because the very person who had taught the people how to recognize herbs and taught them all sorts of medical knowledge, Susu, was going to get married. Susu is really pretty, like a goddess. Yeah, I've seen a lot of celebrities on TV, but none as pretty as Susu. But doesn't her husband look pretty average? He doesn't fit with Susu. Why do you care? It's fine as long as Susu likes him. That young fella is very nice. After Susu was reunited with Emo, she took off her veil, and everyone in the village was shocked by her otherworldly beauty. Emo was also extremely excited. He could finally walk together with Luoying hand in hand. The people in the village were genuine and didn't have all sorts of rules and customs like in the city. They just gathered to celebrate and wish the newlyweds good luck. Emo and Luoying liked that. After a day of celebration, the village finally calmed down. Emo walked into a small room with Luoying, who had her head covered with a red veil. This was the place Luoying had lived in for 2 years, and now it would be the place she would be living with Emo. The big red candles brightly shone in the room, and Emo excitedly unveiled Luoying. Under the bright red candles, Luoying's face seemed even prettier, as she had that sense of embarrassment that made Emo lose his mind. Susu, you're truly beautiful, Emo couldn't help but want to say. Although his mask had been washed away by Luoying with herbs, the poison was still in his body. Although Emo didn't make any sound, Luoying knew what he wanted to say. She felt Emo's hand swish around and felt a little shaky. The inexpressible feeling of love was seizing her. Hold on, Dash! Although Emo couldn't hear her demand, he saw Luoying wave out the candles. She knew she would be sleeping with Emo that night, but she felt too embarrassed with the red candles burning. Although the candles were out, the light from outside still shone in from the window, giving a glow to their eyes which were expressing the pair's deep love for each other. Luoying's soft body and faint aroma made Emo unable to hold himself back. Soon, he saw Luoying with most of the clothes she had worn before gone. Luoying was like a young lamb squirming in his arms. She only knew how to hug him tightly and let him do whatever he wanted. Although he really wanted to do it, Emo thought about her cultivation. He had written the first level of a cultivation method for her 3 days before, and it had become clear that Luoying did indeed have a spiritual root. He believed that with the help of the Spirit Stone, she would be able to reach stage 1 within a month. But if he took her virginity now, would it affect her cultivation? If it was due to him that she couldn't reach foundation establishment, then what would he do? Feeling Emo slow down and stop, Luoying embarrassingly looked up at Emo in confusion. Emo couldn't use a mind-cleansing chant on himself at that moment, but he loved Luoying, and for his love, he could resist any hardship and enticement. I'm afraid that if I were to take your virginity today, it will be hard for you to reach foundation establishment. How about we wait until you reach foundation establishment state, and then we dash? Emo just managed to write half of his message before Luoying took the paper away. Luoying shook her head and didn't say anything, but her body was telling Emo that she just wanted to be with him, that nothing else was important. She knew that if the poison remained in Emo's body, nothing else would matter anyway. Without the mind-cleansing chant, Emo could no longer control his feelings for Luoying. With some light creaks from the bed, a harmonious scene appeared under the silver moonlight. Luoying's body was like a hot stream, getting more and more sensitive with Emo's charge. She couldn't help but moan as her hand grabbed Emo's back tightly. It was a little painful at first, but as Emo slowly kept moving, she didn't want to leave his arms. She wanted to grab Emo's back tightly, but she was afraid of hurting him. The only thing she could do was embrace Emo as much as he could handle and give her everything to him. It might have been only Luo Ying's first time, but Emo wasn't exactly experienced either. He embraced Luo Ying tightly, and he could feel her heart and body shake in pleasure just like him. It was as though at that moment he and Luo Ying had become one. Luo Ying made a final long moan in Yemo's arms and grabbed his back even tighter. In Luo Ying's heart, Yemo was her everything. Yemo made her not only feel love but also longing. Now, her body was his, and his warmth was still inside her. In the end, as the night progressed, the creaking of the bed stopped. Yemo lovingly kissed Luo Ying in his arms, before they descended into the realm of dreams together. The call of the rooster broke the silence of the village. Luo Ying opened her eyes and looked at Yemo with gentle eyes. She should have married him earlier. Although it was a little late, but at least she still did it. She carefully touched Yemo's face and suddenly thought, how could 30 days of being together ever be enough? She wanted 300 years, 3,000 years, 30,000 years, or even an eternity with him. For the first time ever, Luo Ying started hating a person to the bones. She didn't even hate Jingxi as much as that Jie Xian. If it weren't for her, she would get to live with Yemo forever and give birth to his children. No, she had to find a cure, help her husband cure the poison and live with him forever. The first thing Yemo saw when he woke up was Luo Ying busying about. Even though she was a yellow-level middle-stage ancient martial artist, she still walked a little uneasily after her first night. Yemo got up and felt warm at heart. He just watched Luo Ying silently. No matter what had happened before, she was his wife now. He needed to love and protect her. Chapter 606, 2 Lifetimes. Chapter 606, 2 Lifetimes. Time flies when you're happy. They'd been married for almost 10 days. Yemo could feel that Luo Ying constantly had a faint sense of worry. But he didn't want to break the peaceful life they had, so he didn't ask what was going on. But today, he felt something wasn't right with Luo Ying. I want to go and find out if there are herbs in the mountain that could heal you. She had noticed that Yemo already knew something was going on, so she just told him before he could ask. Do you want to find Jie Xian the nun? You think she has the cure? Yemo asked. At this point, they didn't even need to write. They only needed to look at each other's lips to know what they were saying. Sometimes, even a glance or action could let them understand each other. Luo Ying was dazed. She had understood Yemo's glance. It was as though he knew what she was thinking, but didn't agree. But you're poisoned. Okay. I won't go, I'll stay with you, Luo Ying said and then walked to him so she could brush his hair. She knew that Yemo didn't want her to go. She wanted to say that they only had little more than 10 days left, yet she felt this was far from enough. She wanted to be with Yemo forever. Yemo embraced her and said, Dummy, my poison isn't fatal. I just can't speak or hear. Once you reach stage 1, you can cure me. What? It's not lethal? Luo Ying was dazed. Suddenly fortune was on her side. She even suspected she had read Yemo's lips incorrectly, so she asked again. I said that if you reach stage 1, you can cure me. Yemo felt her excitement, and caringly wiped her tears as he repeated his words. Luo Ying hugged him tightly with joy. After a while, she looked up and said excitedly, I'm already at stage 1, She wanted Yemo to tell her how she could cure him, but she didn't know how to express it. Yemo was shook. He hadn't expected Luo Ying to be able to reach stage 1 in less than half a month. Although it was also due to the Spirit Stone, one could see that she was indeed quite skilled. Yemo quickly took out a pen and a piece of paper. He wrote down how to release spirit sense and take things out from the storage ring. When Yemo held the bottle of Lotus Life pill, he was actually very calm. For the first time, he felt that everything else was unimportant next to Luo Ying. The paradise he had lived in for the past 10 days made him almost forget there was poison left in his body. With her help, Yemo put a pill in his mouth. This pill melted immediately and turned into a spring nourishing his organs and dantian. The damaged dantian repaired rapidly. Luoying watched Yemo sit down with his legs crossed and recover, but the weight made her anxious. She didn't dare leave him alone and didn't even mind the water boiling outside. She felt her heart beating rapidly. If he recovered, she could stay with him forever. The Binshur grass poison wasn't directly affected by the Lotus Life pill, it was just pushed out of his body by his own qi. His external injuries had already been healed under Luo Ying's care, and now his internal injuries were gone too. Qi gradually started to gather, and Yemo could clearly feel his power rising until it recovered to its original state. Luoying saw some kind of white mist rise from the top of Yemo's head with black qi in it. She realized that Yemo must have pushed outside the poison. Then, her heart felt like it was going to burst out of joy. She thanked the heavens for letting Yemo be alright. A day passed quickly, and when Yemo opened his eyes again, it was already dark. Luoying sat in front of him, staring without blinking. He could tell that she had been staring at him the entire day, worried about him. Susu, sorry to make you worry. Yemo got up and gently cuddled her. She couldn't hold it anymore and cried out in his arms. The torture was finally over. She could hear Yemo's voice now, that meant he was well. I thank the heavens that you're all right, Luoying said piously. Yemo kissed her. I should be thanking you, it's you dash. Luoying placed her finger on his lips and stopped him. She pointed at the crescent moon. We got married on a full moon. I really liked it, but today I like it even more. Then I'll take you up to see the moon, okay? And... wow. We're really in the sky. Luoying reacted. It felt really familiar, but it was also unimaginable at the same time. And... we're in the sky right now. Susu, in my dreams from a past life, you were my master, and you took me flying in the sky like this. In this life, I will take you to fly. In a previous life, you taught me everything to take care of myself. In this life, let me take care of you and give you everything, Yemo said. His words got deeply etched into Luo Ying's heart. She murmured, past life, this life. Was there really a past life? I keep dreaming about flying in the sky too, is that real? She caressed Yemo's face, fearing that it was all a dream, but he was concrete and real. The village below was peaceful while she and Yemo welded into the dark sky. Whispering in her ear, Yemo told her everything about cultivation and what happened after she left. When they returned to the room again, Yemo had a sense of familiarity. It was as though she really had taught Yemo cultivation in his past life. She had taught him how to concoct pills, medicine, and language. Susu, where did you go after leaving Serenity? When I went to the desert, I found that you had already taken the stone pool away. Yemo kept asking all sorts of questions. Luoying touched his hair and said, when did you start liking me? Was it due to the memories of your past life from your dreams? Do you like the me from my previous life or this life? Yemo looked at her bright eyes and said slowly, perhaps it wasn't a dream, perhaps it was real. Chapter 607, Return to Jiutong. Chapter 607, Return to Jiutong. Their voices gradually died down as the two just sat there next to each other until the rooster called again. It's dawn, huh? Yemo muttered subconsciously. They had sat there for a whole night. Luoying laid in Yemo's arms and didn't want to move. Yemo suddenly thought of something and took out a small bag for Luoying and said, Susu, the sect leader of Serenity told me to give this to you. I didn't open it, so have a look what it is. Luoying took the bag and opened it. There were 2 books and a yellow cloth with a date written on it within. What are these letters? I've never seen them before, Luoying said strangely. Yemo took it and was dazed. It was actually the language of Luo Yu continent. How could that have found its way to Serenity? This is your cultivation method, the same as the one I wrote for you, Yemo said. Huh! Then that means what happened in the dream is all real. Luoying took the book shakily. Yemo nodded. It is. He just didn't understand how this could appear on Earth and be acquired by the sect leader of Serenity. The date written on the cloth was April 26, such a familiar date. Indeed, it was the date Yemo transmigrated. Look at this book. Luoying gave the other book to Yemo. Yemo flipped through a few pages and felt a heavy feeling of love. As Luoying noticed that, she asked, "What does it say?" Yemo answered softly, "Su, it's your diary from your past life. A lot of things are exactly as I dreamed they would dash, huh?" Luoying quickly took the book and said, "I'll give it to you when I'm done." Yemo nodded. "Perhaps you can remember some things through it. It doesn't matter if you show me or not." Luoying blushed. "I'll let you see for sure, I just don't know if I said anything bad about you in it. You need to teach me this language, though," Yemo said softly again. "Of course, like I said, in our last life you taught me, in this life I will teach you. A lot of the words I know were taught by you. But isn't that probably just in your dreams?" "No, I believe it really happened." Seeing Luoying put the book away, Yemo suddenly said, "I'll make a storage ring for you later on." He had all the materials already, and Yemo attached a diamond to it too, a blue diamond. He felt a little troubled about how to tell Luoying about Ningqingxue. But luckily he still had a lot of time. The ring was made quickly, and Yemo put some necessary recovery and cultivation pills in it before handing it to Luoying. Luoying looked at the ring, and her expression was the same as Ningqingxue's. The joy in her eyes was unquenchable. The blue diamond and storage capability weren't the main attraction. The main thing was that Yemo had made it for her. Help me put it on." Luoying's voice was shaky. Although she hadn't lived in the city for too long, she still knew what a ring meant. Yemo gently put the ring on for Luoying. Looking at a Luoying unable to stop fiddling with her ring, Yemo's heart was filled with warmth. He didn't disturb Luoying and took out his phone. He was going to call his sister and Qingxue to tell them he was all right. But as soon as he opened his phone, there was a large amount of texts. Some were from Ningqingxue and his sister, but most of them were from Li Chunxing and Shi Xiu. It was all about the case in Jiutang City. Cheng Changhui had been taken away, but at the same time, Li Chunxing said that he needed him urgently. Shi Xiu's text said the same too. Yemo quickly called them, but both of their phones were shut down. Yemo texted Bai Wei, Qingxue and Yiling first. He decided to go back to Jiutang and see what was going on. How could Li Chunxing not deal with such a simple case and get dragged into some mess instead? "What happened, Marshal Brother?" Luoying found that it sounded much better to call Yemo Marshal Brother. Yemo was okay with it and said, "Two of my friends in Jiutang are in trouble. I need to go see. I'm sorry, Susu, I wanted to stay with you for a few more days." Luoying felt the ring and smiled. "There's no need to say sorry between us, I'll go wherever you go. I have nothing keeping me here. I'll just take that stone pool away. Also, there's no point in leaving so much money in my ring. I'll give it to Uncle Wang and Auntie Shi for them to split amongst the villagers. The ginseng you ate was from them and the money for the wedding was also all paid by them." Yemo smiled and grabbed her hand. "No need, I still have more." It was mostly USD in his ring though, and only about 5 million renminbi. He gave more than 1 million to Luoying and took out the rest. The people in the village were very innocent, and the village leader divided the money equally. When Luoying and Yemo left, everyone in the village went to send them off. They are all good people. Luoying and Yemo had walked for very long already, yet they could still see people waving their hands at them. "Because you're an immortal goddess." Yemo smiled and said. Yemo called Lu Lin as soon as he came to Jiutang City, but he couldn't reach her either. Yemo decided to buy some clothes for Luoying with her and then go to Jioha Corporation. He didn't believe that a province-level senator would lose a fair battle. One pale yellow dress with the necklace and ring Yemo had given her made Luoying feel like an ethereal goddess. Everyone in the clothing store was dominated by Luoying's out-of-this-world beauty. Perhaps they had never even seen anyone as pretty as Luoying before. "Wait for me for a bit, I need to go buy some things in the supermarket." Luoing saw that Yemo was on a call and said to him. Yemo understood that she probably wanted to buy some women products, so he didn't follow and just waited for her at the door, thinking about what might have happened. Might you be Yemo? An abrupt voice stopped Yemo's train of thought. A man in his 30s halted before him, and a girl dressed very revealingly stood next to him. She looked to be somewhere in her 20s, and she wasn't ugly, but Yemo didn't like her makeup. The man seemed familiar. Yemo soon remembered who he was. He had been his classmate in Ninghai, Wang Chu. Wang Chu was very close to Shishio. In fact, he was one of Shishio's few close friends. Well, although Shishio didn't have many friends in university, he still knew more people than Yemo. Wang Chu, why are you here? Yemo asked strangely. You're really Yemo? No wonder you look so familiar. You changed so much that I almost didn't recognize you. Shishio asked me to come over. He ran into some trouble, and I happened to be working in Jiotong, so here I am, Wang Chu said. Just as Yemo wanted to ask about Shishio's situation, Luo Ying's angry voice sounded. Yemo immediately went to her. Chapter 608, We're Friends. Chapter 608, We're Friends. Miss, Hong Kong Danyu Entertainment is top-notch in the industry. With your looks and our expertise, I'm sure you can become famous all over the world. Even Hollywood would easily be within your grasp. A bald fat man was talking on and on. Yemo wanted to laugh. No need, we're not interested in what you're talking about, so move aside. Let's go, Susu. People like this can be found everywhere, no need to mind them. Yemo helped Luoing carry her things and pulled her away. Don't leave, I'm a shareholder of Hong Kong Danyu Entertainment. Friend, your girlfriend is this pretty, it'll be such a waste if dash. The fat man was very agile and ran in front of Yemo. Luoing frowned. She had already rejected, yet the man still persisted. Yemo grabbed the fat man and threw him away onto a dumpster. The trash came out a bit and splashed across the man's face. What Yemo wouldn't have expected was that as soon as he left, the shareholder guy immediately took out his phone and called someone. Uncle Tom, I found a goddess-like beauty in Jiotong, definitely goddess level. I'm sure she's the prettiest girl in China. Yes, as long as she joins our company will dominate the world. Wang Chu, take me to where you guys are meeting. I haven't seen Shishio in a long time. Yemo pulled Luoing over to Wang Chu and said. Wang Chu was dumbfounded looking at Luoing and reacted only after a long time. Oh okay, let's go. He was truly shocked. The woman with Yemo was way too beautiful. Yemo, this is? Wang Chu asked. Yemo smiled. My wife, Luoing. Susu, this is my former classmate, Wang Chu. Luoing didn't like to talk to strangers and just nodded. The girl beside Wang Chu was also shocked. To be honest, she had never seen a girl as pretty as Luoing. Yemo looked very ordinary. How did he get such a good girl? Her confidence was shattered to pieces in front of Luoing. Let's go, then. By the way, when did Shishio come to Jiotong? Yemo asked. It's right over there, Wine City 613. Shishio just told us to wait for him there. He'll be there soon, and I don't know when he came over either. Wang Chu pointed at a luxurious restaurant not far away. Then let's go, Yemo answered. Wang Chu walked over to Yemo and said in a quiet tone. Shishio seems to have gotten into quite some trouble this time. We want to help him, but the enemy is pretty powerful. If why sigh? Yemo shook his head. He knew what Wang Chu was thinking. He meant that if Yemo was still part of the Yi family, then things would be good. Yemo didn't know Wang Chu much, but from what Shishio had said, he should be quite decent. However, apparently he wouldn't sacrifice himself to help Shishio. Yemo also suspected that Wang Chu had stopped staying in touch with Shishio after graduation and only started contact again after Shishio became a mayor. The most luxurious room in the restaurant was 613, but Shishio would never be able to get that room, so he was in room 616 together with some acquaintances. When Emo and company arrived, one clean-looking man just scanned Luoying once, but almost everyone else kept their eyes on Luoying. There was even a passionate fire in the eyes of two of them. Emo immediately didn't like this. What sort of friends had Shishio brought? Luoying was clearly behind Emo, yet they still looked at her like that. With the 6 people already there and the 4 who just arrived, the gathering consisted out of 10 people. There were 2 more whom Emo knew, but they hadn't been in the same class though. "Hello, I'm Shui Guiyang, Shishio's blood brother." "You are?" The clean-looking man walked up to Emo and shook his hand. Emo had heard of this name before. Shui Guiyang was very loyal, Shishio had talked about him quite often. "I'm Emo, Shishio's friend." Emo shook hands with the man and smiled. "Oh, so you're brother Emo. I've heard about you more than once." Shui Guiyang looked overjoyed from the bottom of his heart. Shishio had told him that if Emo came, he would be able to help a lot. Emo said, "Shishio is my friend, so since you're his friend, just call me Emo." "Okay then, Emo it is, I won't be too polite," Su Guiyang said. Due to Shui Guiyang's obvious respect, the other people in the room got up and also greeted Emo. Shui Guiyang was a middle-level manager in Hefeng City. There were 2 others who also worked in Jiutang, and 1 person who had opened a trade company in Jiutang. His name was Mi Fang. One rather tall man was called Lu Jiahua, and he worked at Jiutang Hospital. The oldest man present was in his 30s and was called Bayoshi. He was Shishio's hometown friend. "Why is Shishio still not here even though he invited us here?" Lu Jiahua commented uncomfortably. "Who knows? Oi, Shui Guiyang, what happened to Shishio anyway?" Bayoshi joined. Emo sneered. He knew these people would be too unreliable to expect any help from them. "Okay, I'll tell everyone the truth," Shui Guiyang said. "Shishio ran into some trouble. I believe everyone knows about the Jiutang will case dash." Before Shui Guiyang finished, Bayoshi interrupted. "Guiyang, we're all just small fry, how can we help with that? Isn't Shishio slapping our face asking us to help?" "Bayoshi, how can you talk like that? How much did Shishio help you when he was mayor? And you guys come from the same town. If you don't want to help, then leave, we don't need you." Shui Guiyang was mad. Okay, stop arguing. Although some words aren't nice to say, reality is what it is. We can even so much as touch fights at that level, but we can still do some small things. How about Guiyang, you tell us your plan and we see what we can do. My business isn't big and I might not be able to help much, but I can at least help with some money. Mi Fang saw everyone start arguing and tried to calm them down. Emo sighed. Other than Shui Guiyang, who was truly trying to help Shishio, everyone else had just come for show. Suddenly the door opened, and Shishio came in, having a few slap marks on his face. "Everyone leave, I'm being hunted by the mafia, quick." Shishio only said one sentence before stopping. He had seen Emo. "Emo, how come you're here?" Shishio finally felt assured. He had only called these people to help, because he had no other choice. He wanted to ask them to investigate some things and never expected them to actually help him save Li Chunxing. Emo walked over and patted Shishio's shoulder and said, "Don't worry about anything, just slowly tell me what happened." "I'm sorry, Emo, all I do is make you worry every single time," Shishio said dejectedly. Emo smiled. "Don't say that, we're friends. When I'll be in trouble, you'll help me too." Shishio was about to tear up. He had called nearly 20 friends, but only a few had come, yet Emo came every single time he needed help the most. Chapter 609, As If You Dare to Shoot. Chapter 609, As If You Dare to Shoot. What's going on? As Bayoshi heard that the mafia was after Shishio, he immediately got up worriedly. After it really got through to him, he pulled up a girl that was next to him and said, "We still have something to do, so we'll be going." As soon as he walked to the door, Bayoshi was kicked back in. At the same time, a voice sardonically spoke from the door. Since you already came, don't think about leaving. My big brother said for you to wait here. He will be here very soon. This has nothing to do with me. Bayoshi wanted to argue, but no one listened to him. Yemo, who is this? Shishio was asking about Luoying. Yemo smiled and held Luoying's hand. This is my wife, Luoying. Susu, this is Shishio, my former classmate and my friend. Oh, nice to meet you. Sorry for dragging Yemo into my trouble all the time. Shishio realized only then. Anyway, who else other than Yemo deserved a woman that pretty? Hello? Luoying smiled plainly. Her whole attention was on Yemo, and she only replied because Yemo introduced Shishio as his friend. Otherwise, she wouldn't want to talk to any of these people. She didn't like talking to strangers. Yemo ignored the two at the door and told Wang Chu to close the door. Then he said, Everyone better sit down for now. Shishio, tell us what happened to you. Shishio sighed. Brotherly told me about the case in Jiutang City, so I wanted to help. Originally, there weren't any problems after the second hearing, but because young Master Han came, it became a big problem. Young Master Han, who is that? Yemo asked in surprise. Shishio shook his head. We aren't sure about what his full name is, but Brother Chunxing said that he might be from the Dai family. His power is very big. For someone at his level, Brother Chunxing's local power means nothing to him. Yemo had heard of this Dai family. Shishio had told him about them last time. Ever since the Song family and Xiao family left Beijing, the Dai family and Xiu family rose up. But even if this young master was from the Dai family, the Li family should have no reason to fear him. How come they were attacking Li Chunxing, yet the Li family still didn't do anything? Li Chunxing should be considered a part of the Li family by now. As Shui Guiyang heard this, he asked, Since even Brother Li doesn't have the status to afford being enemies with this young master, why is the guy intervening with something like the Jiutang case? The last time Brother Chunxing talked to me, he said that young Master Han had a new lover, Yizhu's daughter. Yizhu is Yijioha's second brother. As soon as young Master Han intervened in the case, news of Brother Chunxing being corrupt started to appear. This isn't the most important issue. The most important thing is that some rumors that Yijioha's death was related to Brother Chunxing also started to appear, saying that the reason why he was intervening in such a case was because he had an affair with Yijioha's wife. Even though all these rumors about Brother Chunxing are fake, he can't do anything about them. Shishio explained dejectedly. Yemo frowned. Even if the guy was trying to suck up to his father-in-law, he should at most be trying to help them win the case. Why would they go so far as to challenge the bottom line of politics? No matter how big Dai Heng's origin was, he wouldn't just wrongly accuse a provincial official for no reason. Yemo felt that there was more to this matter than meets the eye. Shishio continued. Afterwards, it was also said that back in Hefeng he attacked the Yuan family because the Yuan family didn't divide their dirty money properly with him. How would he know so much about the Yuan family otherwise? Or so the rumors say. After Yemo heard all this, he understood that things were far from simple. Shishio then said, The day Brother Chunxing was taken away, he sent me a letter telling me to leave immediately. I knew things had gotten bad, so I left Shitong with Xiao Tan that night. I knew Brother Chunxing wanted me to find you. What about the Li family? Did Li Chuyang not say anything? Yemo asked. The Li family was pretty much the most powerful family in China. Although Li Chuyang wasn't the most powerful of the young generation, he was definitely in the top 3. With Li Chuyang to help Li Chunxing, how could Li Chunxing be brought down by some Dai family? Not to mention that Li Chunxing was on the just side. Shishio sighed. I heard that something happened to Li Chuyang. I don't know what exactly, though. Although I don't know what's going on with the Li family, but they are no longer the number 1 family in China. The Dai family and Xiu family joined together to take down the Li family, and they have the support of most people in Beijing. Yemo wasn't interested in stuff like that, but Li Chunxing was a good guy, and he had been helping Yemo, so he had to intervene. How is he now? How is the case? And why are you being hunted by gangsters? Yemo asked. I couldn't contact Brother Chunqing, so I came to Jiotang to collect evidence for his sake. But I couldn't do it myself, so I called some friends for help. Because I needed the help from a lot of people, I was short on money, so I went out to borrow some. Those people lent it to me only yesterday, yet now they want me to pay back with a tenfold interest. There was no way I could outtake that much, so I ended up being hunted. Lu Lin is probably locked up. Brother Chunqing told me to look after Yen and Xiao Dai, but I didn't find them. Shi Xiu, did you borrow from Blackhead? Lu Yahua suddenly asked. Shi Xiu nodded. That's right. Lu Yahua's face suddenly changed. Shi Xiu, you brought trouble to all of us. Blackhead reigns supreme in Jiotang. Those who borrow from that guy all lose a few layers of skin. How could you borrow from him? Shut up, Lu Yahua. You and Bai Yoshi are both the same. Shi Xiu asked you for help, so if you can't help, then shut up. Shui Guiyang said angrily. Bang! Suddenly the door was kicked open as an African-looking guy with a cigarette in his mouth and a tattooed head walked in, followed by his cronies. Shi Xiu, you're very bold, making me come personally to collect your debt. The black man suddenly stopped talking when he saw Luoying sitting next to Emo. F***ck me, there's actually such a pretty lady here, ha ha ha. Then the man walked to Luoying. Everyone looked at Luoying with worry, but Shi Xiu was very calm. Emo sneered and kicked the man onto his chest. The man was kicked back and spat out blood before crashing into the wall. You! Kill H-. He spat more blood. He felt his body burning, and his organs were shattered. He was so angry that he wanted to kill Emo, but he didn't dare say anything else as there was a gun pointed at his head. Everyone stopped at the sight of the gun. The black man reacted quickly and snarled. As if you dared to shoot dash. Before he finished, Emo had already fired. Blood splashed out from the guy's forehead as he had an expression of disbelief. Chapter 610, Coming Here with Initiative. Chapter 610, Coming Here with Initiative. You really dared to shoot. I will kill your entire family dash. A ferocious-looking man behind Blackhead moved forward. He was Blackhead's right hand. He pulled out a sword. But before he could finish, Emo fired again. Emo sneered. He could tell that many lives had been lost in their hands. Then, Emo looked at the remaining people and asked, Anyone else wants to talk? Hurry up, I still have a few bullets left. He didn't need a gun to kill these people, but he had used it because he didn't want trouble. He couldn't use fireballs to kill them all, and using a gun was much easier. Moreover, he had license to kill. He just didn't want to cause a slaughter there, so he only killed a few of them to warn them. Of course, the main point was to get the situation even more tense. If they didn't respect him, he wouldn't feel guilty for killing them. Li Chunqing was helping him, and he had appeared in Jiotang a few days ago. He couldn't believe that they didn't know he was involved. If they had known this and still attacked, their actions were very questionable. Emo was sure that the higher-ups in China knew that he was closely related to Luo Yu, if not responsible. Even with this information, they still hadn't considered him, and just intervened in his case. It was no longer a fight for power, it was more serious than that. It could result in an international discord. No matter how powerful the Chiu and Dai family were, they couldn't unsee this. Shi Xiu's friends also looked at Emo in disbelief. That bunch of phonies tried to get out of there quickly. Emo sneered. Did I say you could leave? They shook and stopped. The scene fell into an eerie silence. Clap, clap, almost everyone turned to look at where the clapping came from. A man in his 30s was standing at the door. Exciting. Too exciting! It was like a circus, just 2 shots and no one dares to say anything. It's been a long time since I've seen someone as bold as you. The man's lips were very thin. 2 bulky men more than one. 9 tall stood before him. They were protecting the man, they each had a pistol, and they also were countless times more skilled at shooting than Emo. He didn't mind. yellow level middle stage? Yemo immediately could tell the man's power. The two men protecting him were also at yellow level middle stage. So, he was only at yellow level middle stage, but he dared to act up in front of him. Furthermore, that man wasn't really talented. He had reached yellow level middle stage when he was already in his 30s. What caught Yemo's attention wasn't the man's power, but the two people next to him and his guards, a man and a woman. The man wasn't tall and was in his 50s, but he was at Earth level peak stage. Judging by the chi wave, he was on the same level as Zheng Jingxia. What caught Yemo's attention was the woman. She was only in her 20s, but she had a very vibrant and attractive face. Yemo was shocked at the fact that when he first saw her, she seemed very innocent and soft, making you want to protect her, but when you looked at her for twice, she seemed naturally seductive. When she stood still, her whole body made your mouth dry. Yemo sneered, she had indeed a natural seductive body. Yemo wasn't sure if it was due to cultivation or natural talent, but she had an eerie beauty. Just from her looks, she was better than Su Jingwen, but in Yemo's eyes, she was not as good as even Su Wei. Although Yemo disregarded her, Shi Xiao and the others looked at her as though they wanted to eat her. Then, the man gave a deadly stare to Luoying. His reaction was no better than blackheads. If the woman behind him used her body and seduction skills to showcase her beauty, then the woman in front of him was an indescribable goddess. "I'll take that woman," the man reacted and pointed at Luoying. Yemo sneered and held his gun. "Haha, don't bother waving your gun. Even if you shoot all the bullets in it, a gun like that won't harm me at all." The man laughed. The two bodyguards didn't even bother pulling out their guns, they just charged at Yemo. In their eyes, he was no stronger than an ant. They had been training every day how to dodge bullets. A pistol like Yemo's was slower than a 54. Although Han Zixin had given Yemo a pistol, it wasn't for him to protect himself, it was more as a symbol of power. Bang, bang, he shot the two bodyguards right on the forehead and their bodies fell on the ground. The man looked dumbly at this, he couldn't believe what he has just seen. The man finally reacted, and immediately the cockiness he had was gone. He looked coldly at Yemo and didn't say anything. At the same time, the 50-year-old Earth-level peak martial artist stood in front of him. "You would have to use a 64 to kill young Master Heng's bodyguards. You must not be a simple man." "I'm Kong Laiwu, what's your name?" The 50-year-old man saluted Yemo with his fist. Yemo thought about the situation. So he was dying, which meant that the woman behind him was Elan. She was pretty indeed. He hadn't even gone looking for him yet that young Master Heng had already come up to him himself. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.